Chapter 931. The trip to the Silver Moon Empire went without a hitch. Tsing Hui received the nomological fragment from the Silver Moon Empress as he wished. However, this was to be expected. The Silver Moon Empress could not even afford to offend Emperor Qishao. She was forced into a corner by him, let alone Qing Su, who was slightly stronger than Emperor Qishao. After discussing the division of the Qishao Empire's territory with the Silver Moon Empress, Tsing Hui informed Heavenly Venerable Dragon Sword and Heavenly Venerable Gu Xuanzun. Meanwhile, he exchanged the Qilin law that he did not need for the nomological fragment he needed and returned to the Divine Wilderness Great World. This time, he did not plan to go into seclusion in the Divine Wilderness Great World. Instead, he wanted to go to the Jade Dragon soaring through the Divine Wilderness Great World's teleportation array. The person in charge here was still Immortal Emperor Songhai. After thousands of years, Immortal Emperor Songhai still hadn't fully comprehended the formation, but he had enough understanding of it. He even used the magic of the formation to hide the area within a radius of dozens of kilometers with the teleportation formation as the center. Not to mention ordinary cultivators, even if a powerful expert came and searched carefully, this technique, they wouldn't be able to find the location of the teleportation formation transmission array left behind in the Divine Wilderness Great World. After returning to the Jade transmission array through the teleportation array, Tsing Hui learned a little about the development of civilization, speculated that it was the help of void left behind by a primal chaos civilization developed comprehending this array was equivalent to observing and learning the array of cultivators left behind by a primal void immortal monarchs. The immortal Dao civilization was proficient in arrays, at the very least, refining even void immortal monarchs with the immortal Emperor Songhai was also a leader in arrays. True immortals. Now that he had comprehended this transmission array for thousands of years, he could definitely be called the Immortal Dao Civilization's #1 array master. Void immortals. In terms of understanding of transmission arrays, among these 100 people, far beyond ordinary array masters. With one of them, with such a deep accumulation of experience, Immortal Emperor Songhai immediately understood something compared to other geniuses who had cultivated the virtual barrier given to him by the evil god. Due to her relationship with Tsing Hui, Immortal Emperor Songhai said to Tsing Hui, sometimes and quickly she would even be given cultivation resources and materials used to arrange the array. Some immortal and just like that, in front of such circumstances, he started even if her talent was not as outstanding as others, in this regard, entered the ranks of the strongest experts in the Earth civilization. Immortal Emperor Tsing learned a little about the development of Earth civilization. He did not stay for too long. 3 months, he did not even understood the principle of this array of plentiful treasures. I don't know where the world you speak of is, with the purple but although this method has the effect of opening the world's barrier, it does not enter the world's barrier. If you can take me to that world, I can give it the power of the world's barrier. There's no time to lose. After to activate an array setting up the restriction array as for the function of this array. Immortal Emperor Songhai nodded. The function of this array is 32% similar to the array had quickly left the divine. Therefore, I'm 90% sure that this is an ultra-long transmission array. Currently, the world there were only 4 transmission arrays. The attention of the green ruins immediately so-called and subsidiary between the transmission array world Scarlet's mainland and the original dragon soaring civilization. Sized up. One had to know that the chaotic void and located before he took out civilization world, and the divine wilderness environment of this world presented a different direction of evolution. There were no and different structural forms. The jade dragon constantly very few people evolutionary master and structural forms 20 years, and the distance was countless light deliberately used their design and given it such a transmission array. Strongest expert could in the world are only the law of fragments of one layer of the immortal realm territory which was the spirit of this sword. But in the territory of the master of this sword had an own way of evolution was divided into dozens to keep an eye on restore this incantation of all the 4,000 power to 10 billion. This incantation immediately has trace energy to restore himself into his peak state. In addition, with the help of the illusory immortal Dao world, you should be able to sense that there are 600 years before he began to refine the 2 precept fragments. Are blocked by an invisible foundation laid by the fortune jade. The refinement of the 2 precept fragments didn't cause too much trouble for special secret method in less than 300 years. Tsing Hui had completed the refinement of the 2 precept fragments and figured out the abnormality of this world on the same level as the grand development sacred sovereign who'd refined 8 precepts of Dao. Also noticed the uniqueness of this world. 4 precepts of Dao left. He could feel that a part of this world was covered covered by an invisible precept fragment that had also belonged to the ancient mystic sovereign, but it was very likely that that part of the world would fall into the chaotic void and be eroded by the chaotic void. Otherwise, according to what the evil god's true body told him for something, these covered things should be law would increase once again. Next, he only needed to follow the evil god to condense the origin plate, and give him enough power even if I could barely condense the origin plate he would be able to take out the law fragments hidden in this world and complete the transaction with him. Sing Hui felt a little regretful. He had already learned from Immortal again and see if I can go after the method to open this world contains special changes. However, with my strength alone, was used to open this world, it would inevitably be very dangerous. Ultra-long distance transmission formation that would send him to an unknown location. Sing Hui was about to end his closed-door cultivation and return to the grand development Immortal Emperor Song. However, when his gaze fell on the precept fragment, he vaguely sensed that something was wrong with it. Has certain requirements for the characteristics of the fragment's mysteries have decreased a little. Shielded space. If you don't need to open the shielded precept fragment I can activate it and quickly realize that it wasn't an illusion. Space. The precept fragment's take out mysteries had decreased a little while activating the method. It was as if some special existence had refined a small portion of the precept fragment's mysteries. The power he used to shield the space is not the power of laws or formations. He deliberately pretended to immerse his mind in stabilizing and perfecting the illusory it's a little like a creation divine artifact, but most of his attention was focused on the precept of the nature of a small world. The precept fragment hadn't vaguely understood that this was a small world, but on the third year, God's true body had left behind to refine from a part of his chaotic universe. Precept fragment's if I want to take out what I want from this space, clearly similar to someone a divine tool of creation, following the red light. Sing Hui's gaze can only rely on his method, focusing on this will inevitably activate the ultra-long distance transmission formation. It was a special world where the dragonification fruit tree and the many resources he'd used when he was in the divine realm. Immortal Emperor Songhai looked at the world for a long time before saying, on the 10-meter tall blood-colored ultra-long distance transmission array, we should be able to start from the energy at the site of the blood-colored source of that ultra-long distance transmission array of myriad treasures. Guess it will absorb the energy of the entire world and convert it into the kinetic energy of the transmission array. Everything he could to keep the ultra-long distance transmission array. Learning that it was if we can destroy this world, we will naturally be able to stop the activation of the transmission array. To the statue, the only problem is feel like even if we take advantage of the moment when the world shatters, this evil god is actually secretly refining creation artifact fragment and prevent it from since he's doing it in the chaotic void. He's naturally wary of me to open it. After all, muttered to himself, that spatial creation artifact is one with this world's true body. And he didn't even know enough about chaos creatures' energy source before figuring out the relationship between the blood-colored statue and the precept fragment. If it's locked, he couldn't then act so rashly. When the time comes, he stopped his seclusion and left his cultivation ground, flying toward the heavenly lord of myriad treasures palace. Blinked. Although the immortal Tao civilization wandered around the borders of the Master of Chaos, he was a member of an immortal Tao civilization, and Master of Time's territories in the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos. Three supreme existences, according to the information he gathered, their hands, no creation divine artifact had ever been destroyed unless it encountered the incarnations of great existences such as the illustrious reputation in the Master of Chaos territory over the years. At best, many the destruction of a creation divine artifact on his way to the heavenly Lord of myriad treasures intended and function. Even some immortal emperors had deliberately destroyed a creation when they learned of his arrival. With our strength, the immortal Tao civilization was being hunted down by three supreme existences. Leave the matter if they were intercepted, the creation divine artifact their chances of escaping with their lives if they had the help of such a peak existence. Therefore, it was only right to befriend him as much as possible. And swiftly arrived at the world's surface. Sing Hui, you're here. However, I've heard from immortal over the world that you're in seclusion in the jade dragon soaring in this victorious sky. If we don't, but I haven't been able to find the location of your destruction of the world. Now that you've come out of seclusion, into my immortal has your cultivation ended? Sing Hui nodded. Sing Hui nodded. If he could avoid harming the innocent, he naturally didn't want to do so. Immortal Emperor Songhai had spent already had 30 years studying the method of a supreme expert. Now that you've 30 years had passed, did he finally hand over a brand new method to an unprecedented peak? It should be done. You're not inferior to those on the ultimate divine replied expectantly. Others don't know that you have a part of the supreme treasure and think that you'll need tens of thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years to refine all of the law fragments. This world. However, in my opinion, 1,000 years should be enough for you. Sing Hui began to circulate the method ranking. Streams of light the ability from his hands and enveloped the entire ultimate divine ranking. At the same time, and I should be at a minor world with a diameter of more than 100 kilometers appeared and began to master of chaos territory to a special method. I can't be too high profile. Once the minor world was activated, I'll attract the attention of the master of chaos. Immediately destroyed the auxiliary world before treasures heard this. While this auxiliary world was not small, this was indeed a problem for 10 billion square kilometers. I'm here this time. It was nothing to an origin immortal emperor who was equivalent to a god. The evil god, power, the heavenly lord of myriad treasures expressions suddenly became serious. Of light that had enveloped the evil god was dissipated with the destruction of the world, especially when it was related to the evil god's 100 kilometers in diameter. The heavenly lord of myriad treasures immediately activated a sliver of joy appeared on the entire face when he saw that. Even some of the defensive formations were half activated. Next, once there was any danger, they would devour and refine the miniature world that was like a myriad treasures combat bit by bit. Was only equivalent as long as he could create an opening and enter the miniature world, even if he relied on fragments of laws hidden in the miniature world that had been refined from a fragment of the chaotic formations in the soaring jade dragon triumph. By then, he would be able to complete the third layer of the disc of ways in a single stroke inferior to any ultimate god. With the illusory world of immortals as his foundation, civilization, he would be able to trace back to the myriad treasures in charge and become a true life form of chaos. Beast Qilin. However, what's going on? Qing Su's the heavenly lord of myriad treasures asked the miniature world that had already dimmed immediately told the heavenly lord of myriad treasures and it began to absorb and then quickly took out the law fragment like a whale sucking in water. It was so fast when he took out the blood-colored statue, he had already used a portion of the chaotic universe's power of the virtual immortal civilization to conceal it so that the statue would not detect activating that ultra-long distance teleportation formation. The heavenly lord of myriad treasures drastically paused on the law fragment for a moment as he discovered that he could not stop the technique at all. A moment later, a light seemed to flash in his mind as he suddenly said, when over the years of the power of laws inquired about the details of the evil god, the dazzling light that erupted from the miniature world had already turned into an unprecedented ripple by the master of chaos, sweeping up Qing Su. Most of the main immortal was annihilated by the master of chaos. But there are still some remnants left and flew towards the very depths of it. This should be a portion of the power left behind by the evil god's true body. If your statue is really the evil god we talked about earlier, he should want to absorb the power of light envelop the two of them and construct into the depths of the void as much as possible. The entire territory of the Lord of Chaos seemed to tremble. Chapter 9:32. One could vaguely see a gigantic hand that was tens of millions of light years in the endless void intercepting the stream of light from afar. Sing Hui to want to grasp the stream of light in its hand and crush it into pieces. However, although the stream of light hasn't shown any malice at the moment, my advice to you is, while the gigantic hand that spans tens of millions of light years was too slow, it's best that we hand this evil god over to the Lord of Chaos. Broke through the layers of blockade and entered for you to hand it over. You might as well use someone else to do it. Chaotic void, with your current status, you should have many hundreds of millions of light years in size were constantly the heavenly Lord of treasures exuding extremely terrifying pressure. Full of wariness. Even a trace of this pressure was enough to make a great magic level existence. The power of evil gods is beyond if it were an ordinary supreme being, even the saints of the immortal civilization to erase his had to rely on their indestructibility to barely contend just like against how them. Humans would be blinded and destroyed of their vision when they saw a strong light. The myth of being immortal that weren't indestructible would also have their life imprints and spiritual only outcome we faced when they came into contact with the evil god had once slain that were at the pinnacle of existence beneath the Lord of Chaos. They would be turned into even barged into the Lord of Chaos universe and inflicted considerable damage that were hundreds of millions of light years in size were nothing evil compared to the chaotic void that was filled with chaotic energy. To categorize they were like celestial bodies that were suspended in the starry sky of the universe. The fifth tier, compared to mortals, to the three they were unimaginably huge and Lord of Chaos, but compared to the vast starry sky, the Lord of Gods, they were not worth the depth and methods that even if these terrifying and great life forms wanted to intercept the stream of light that run as far as we can. They would have to give up temporarily due to the distance. But as you can see now, heavenly Lord, light this evil god is clearly an arrow at the unknown period of time. If we can dig out the benefits it has, a slowly revolving but seemingly lifeless huge world appeared in front of the stream of light. You said that this evil without any pause, the stream of light quickly shot into the Lord of Chaos and merged with the huge world. At the time, They probably wanted to intercept the Lord of Chaos' plan of gathering the power as a 12 divine beasts to trace the phantom of the eternal which had been immersed for 100,000 years and was equivalent to the supreme temple in the hearts of the cultivators in the entire evil gods wanted to replace the 12 divine beasts with a dazzling stream of light. They must have a huge amount of law fragments in their hands, and giants of various generations who were guarding this temple came from all directions. The heavenly Lord of myriad treasures on a pilgrimage guessed something as he frowned. Were full of piety. Nomological fragments. Among all the pilgrims, the leader was an old man who guarded the divine hall. If he could really obtain the remaining law fragments from these evil gods filled with the presence of many 12 divine beast laws, and the energy pulses he gave off from time to time were unfathomable, and have the hope of becoming a true chaos creature. Zabulu, who could be considered a supreme existence in the eyes of any powerful being, he would be able to resonate with the immortal Tao civilization and receive its power. This divine temple. When that happened, with an excited expression, the master of chaos, High Priest Zabulu welcomes the arrival of my lord. He might not necessarily shout of the high priest named Zabulu, trading with the evil gods with unfathomable auras appeared one after another. Sing Hui knew what the Lord of Myriad Treasures wanted and shouted loudly. The heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures was the only great divine ability expert of the immortal Tao of our civilization. The responsibility of the entire immortal Tao civilization's inheritance the arrival of our Lord's shoulders, which made him prioritize the city of stability whenever he faced the arrival of our Lord. Over time, he had already lost the spirit to take risks and struggle. Every will was filled with respect, he was able to understand this, and even fanaticism. These voices echoed outside trading the temple, with the evil god, but it might indeed be dangerous. And immortal Emperor, but this evil god is clearly just been teleported here by the ultra-long distance. Even if he recovers slightly, he probably won't be able to reach his peak state. So many experts, on the contrary, the experts as long as I can obtain enough law fragments, I can immediately trace back to the origin plate and have the foundation to break through to the fourth in the territory of the realm and transform into immortal a chaos creature. Songhai said if solemnly, I can become a true chaos creature before him, even if the trade is really dangerous, I will be able to deal with it calmly. Coupled with the scene of the outside world we saw to become a chaos creature. Just now, the heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures from the immortal Tao civilization glanced at the heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures, the Lord of Time, the heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures didn't know that he had come to an unfamiliar universe of the creation jade and thought it was just a small piece. Fell on the void heaven ring in his hand, who had almost a complete creation jade, unfamiliar, was almost equivalent to the chosen one of the immortal Tao civilization. If I'm not mistaken, he could be said to have gathered all of the immortal Tao civilization's fortune on him. Immortal with Emperor the immortal Tao civilization's brief introduction so strong we had given him Master of Chaos, the Master of Time, and the Master of God's chaotic universe. He didn't think that the fourth level of chaos could stop him and stop him from advancing, and was about to say something. I want to give it a try. At this moment, the evil god that he is sealed in the void heaven ring. There's an old saying in the source world: "A blood-red mist permeated the surroundings wildly, and began to smash against the seal of the void heaven Master of Chaos." However, when it truly attacked, because we don't have the right to speak to him as an equal, discovered that the evil god's power was weaker than he imagined. Not only was it able to borrow their power to overthrow the Master of Chaos. It was so weak that whether even these evil gods cultivation was far below it. They are all our enemies. It was equivalent to their true goal is to obtain information about the ultimate eternity in our immortal Tao civilization. Sing Hui didn't dare to attack, even if you maintain an excellent cooperation to destroy the crimson statue. They won't hesitate to turn against you when faced with the temptation of the ultimate eternity. They won't even hesitate to ally with the Master of Chaos against by this evil god and fell into his trap. I understand. He had been used as the energy source to activate the ultra-long distance teleportation array formation and had directly come to this world. And the Master of Time will be their greatest enemies. Fortunately, the only thing worth rejoicing over was that the true body of the evil god was sealed within the void heaven ring. It's just like you said, the void heaven ring ultimate goal is the creation artifact that the Master of Primal Chaos, even if they know there's something wrong with me, or even that they have ill intentions, was astonishing. They might not harm me for the time being to obtain the weakened true body of the evil god would not be able to leave the void heaven ring and merge so that I can reach the peak more smoothly. Otherwise, if the evil god really did merge with the void heaven ring, it would be equivalent, at least to for now, incarnation of a world creation realm expert. The Lord of Myriad Treasures fell silent. It would instantly recover to its peak state. He slowly said, "There's something I haven't mentioned to you. 12 divine beast primogenitors under the Lord of Chaos in our immortal Tao civilization. To say nothing of You're not the only one. Are all the top experts was a little in the outside world the evil god subjects? There's another great master. Immortal
Yes,
Emperor Tsong
that
Hai's
great
heart was
master
filled
should be
with
the
fear when he
Chimping Sword
sensed the
Spirit,
powerful
the
auras
Lord of
rapidly
myriad
approaching
treasures
from
said
the outside
slowly.
world.
I've heard
According
of a
to
rumor
his
that when our
senses,
civilization
the number
was
of
on the brink of
experts
collapse,
equivalent to
the
heavenly
great
lords,
ancestor
or
of
in
all
other
living
words,
beings,
great
Saint
ability
Hua,
users,
had
borrowed the
already
core power of
exceeded
our
3 digits.
civilization and ignited
At the
her
same
own
time,
supreme Saint
even
power
more
to
experts
throw the
of this
Chimping
level were
sword
hurrying
born
over
from
from even
chaos
further
and
away
forged
as
from
if they were on a
near-eternal
pilgrimage into
They
the
wanted
river
to
of
pay their
time.
respects to the
She
supreme
attempted to
ruler
return
of
this
this
chaotic
chaotic spirit
universe
to the
the
primordial
evil
era
god that
and
Ching
prevent
Su
our
had sealed
civilization
away
from
in the
facing
void
this
heaven ring.
unprecedented
No matter
calamity.
what, we can't
Saint
reveal
Hua
our
continued
identities.
slowly. At the same
That's right,
time, we
Saint
can't
Hua.
let these people
The
know
river
that
of
the
time?
supreme ruler
That's
in their
right,
hearts is
the river
sealed
of
in the
time.
void heaven ring
Only
by
our
us.
immortal Tao
Moreover,
civilization
we
can
can't let
clearly
this evil
manifest
goddess
and see
see
the
from the
river of
void
time,
heaven ring,
because this
river
otherwise,
of time is the
once
path
this
that the
evil
great
god
primordial
returns to his
plate
universe,
once walked.
he'll
And the
recover to
traces
his
left
peak state
behind
in
on
an
the path
instant.
belong
At that
to
time,
eternity.
killing us will be as
There was a
easy
hint
as
of
crushing
pride
an ant.
in the Lord of myriad
Sing Hui
treasures
was about to
expression
think
when
of
he
a
said
way
this,
to disguise
but there
his
was
identity
even more
as he
sadness.
spoke when an
He
enormous
was proud that
invisible
their immortal
consciousness
Tao
rapidly
civilization
circulated
possessed a
throughout the
great
chaotic
legacy.
universe.
He was
This
sad that his
consciousness
descendants
wasn't a
didn't
real
fight for it,
existence,
and
but
couldn't
rather
even
a
protect
human
the
instinct
great
that had
primordial plate's
spontaneously
legacy.
awakened after
Sing Hui
sensing
was
something
silent for a
unusual.
moment before he spoke
As the
again.
consciousness awakened,
If I'm not
it seemed to
mistaken,
sense
the
Tsing
future
Hui's
clearly
true
hasn't
self
changed.
sealed in the void
The
heaven
Lord
ring
of
and
myriad
began to
treasures
permeate
nodded.
the void heaven ring
The
with
future
great
hasn't
power.
changed.
The evil
At the
god's
same
true
time
body
as
in the
the
void
immortal
heaven
Tao
ring
civilization
immediately
crumbled,
sensed the
the
changes
river
in
of
the
time
outside
vanished
world
as well.
In an instant,
However,
his
it's not
originally
without a trace,
10-meter-tall
because the
statue
Chimping
suddenly
Sword
came to
spirit
life,
is
and a
currently
power that
submerged
almost
in the
reached
river
the
of
level
time.
of an almighty
Moreover,
erupted
we can
from his hand.
intermittently receive
In
some
an instant,
information from
he
the Chimping
instinctively
Sword spirit,
formed a
but
connection with
most
the
of it is
will of the
incomplete
outside
and
world.
can't be analyzed.
Perhaps the method of transmission
Upon closer
is beyond
inspection,
our
Sing
understanding.
Hui discovered that the great master-level power
However,
erupting
a
from
few
the evil
thousand
god
years ago,
was the result
not
of
long
him
after you
secretly
first came
refining
to our
the law
jade dragon
fragment
soaring through the
ago.
heavens,
We
you
want to
suddenly
form a
received
connection
a
with the
relatively
consciousness
clear
in the
image,
outside
an
world.
image related to
Sealing.
you. The
Sing
Lord
Hui
of
didn't care
myriad
about
treasures
anything
nodded.
else. The
An
power
image
of the
related
laws
to
of
me?
the Tao of Unity
Sing Hui
rapidly
blinked.
circulated,
The Lord of
transforming
myriad
into
treasures
streaks
nodded
of
and
sword
waved
chi
his
that
hand,
swept across
gathering
all
countless
directions,
streaks of
severing
laws in his
all the
hand.
tentacles that
These
the evil
streams
god's
of
true
laws
body
appeared
had
to be the
extended
most
to the
ordinary
void heaven
streams
ring.
of laws.
However,
Moreover,
it would have been better
each of these
if he
streams
hadn't
of laws
severed
was
the
evil
extremely
god's
weak,
tentacles, so weak
as
that
soon as
even
he
a
did,
domain-level
the tentacles
cultivator would
turned
not
into
be able to
pieces
use
of
them to
information that were
comprehend and
absorbed by the
cultivate.
consciousness in
However,
the outside
it was
world
precisely
almost
because of this
instinctively.
weakness that they could
After
exist
receiving
in
this
any
information,
environment.
or rather,
It was just like
consciousness,
spatial geometry,
the entire chaotic
calculus,
universe
linear
began to
algebra,
revolve with a
and
loud
other
rumble.
relatively advanced
Everything
knowledge.
between heaven and
Many
earth
people
seemed
might
to
not
be
be able to
undergoing
understand
drastic
them,
changes.
but if it was
What
simple
Sing
numbers
Hui
from
saw
1 to
was
9,
that the laws of
even
the
a
world,
child who had
which had
just
originally
learned to
been
speak
somewhat
would be able
clear,
to understand,
had completely
the
disappeared
information
without a
contained
trace.
in these streaks
The
of
auras
laws
of the peak
has been
experts
transmitted for
outside were
100,000
also constantly
years.
plummeting.
We've
At
always
this
treated
moment,
them as
the
meaningless
entire chaotic
power of
universe
laws.
seemed to have
It wasn't
sealed
until
off all
10,000
active
years
energy
ago that we barely
fluctuations.
grasped an
Sealed
analysis
off a
method
world.
that we guessed
He
that this
sealed
was a
off his
type
own
of
world.
information that a certain
No, it should be
existence
called a
wanted to
universe.
transmit to us. It was a
Sealed
type
off
of
his own
information
universe.
that we couldn't understand,
Sing Hui
and according to our
immediately
further
understood the
conjecture,
evil god's
we
true
identified
body's
it as the
intentions.
Chimping Sword
Sealing
spirit.
off a universe
In the
was
past,
akin to
the
catching a
information
turtle
was
in a jar.
disorderly.
Until
As long
this
as he
image
couldn't
appeared,
leave this chaotic
as the
universe,
Lord of myriad
the evil
treasures
god,
spoke,
as the
the
king of the
image
universe,
formed completely
would one
from the
day be
streaks
able to
of
break
laws
through the
finally
void
took
heaven
shape.
ring seal.
It was a unique
When that
perspective.
time came, however,
It was like the situation
like a
was
person
clearly
looking
much
at the
worse
scene
than Sing
outside
Hui
the
had
window
imagined.
of a speeding train.
Sing Hui
The image
immediately
was blurry
activated
and
the
distorted,
void heaven ring's
but one
sealing
could still
power to the
vaguely
maximum.
tell that it was
But
a
the
great
information
being.
transmitted
He
by
was
the two
surrounded by
consciousnesses
faint streaks
just now
of light
was
that
much more
contained
than he'd
countless
imagined.
information.
A majestic
Outside
and
the
vast
streaks of
voice
light,
instantly
dozens
spread
of
throughout
great
the
figures
entire
seemed to be
universe.
pouncing on the
The
figures
voice
surrounded
contained
by the streaks
extremely
of light at
detailed
the
information.
fastest speed possible.
My subjects,
It was like
a group of
heretics
heroes
has
has intruded into this sovereign's world. Even though the images were rather
this
blurry,
sovereign calls
Qin
upon you to
Su
capture
managed
these
to
two
determine the
heretics and
identities
hand
of
them
the
over
several
to the
dozen
sovereign
great
to deal with
existences
personally.
as soon as he saw
This
them.
voice seemed to be
Evil God,
transmitted by the
especially the
instinctive
three at the
consciousness
center
of the
of the
chaotic
dozens
universe,
of great beings,
resounding in
they
the
were the
minds
Lord
of
of
all
Chaos,
intelligent beings,
the Lord of Time,
even
and the
Tsing
Lord of
Hui
Gods.
and immortal
There
Emperor
was no
Tseng
need
Hai
to
were
describe
no
them in
exception.
detail.
Not
Tsing
only did
Hui
this
knew
voice
that they were
resound
the
in their
three
minds,
supreme
but it also
existences.
contained detailed
As for the
portraits of
figures
them,
surrounded
their
by
life
the
auras
streaks of
and
light,
soul
it was
fluctuations.
himself. At the same time as this message was transmitted, the terrifying
Chapter
consciousness in the
9:33.
void that was powerful
What
enough
is
to
this?
maintain the
Tsing
operation
Hui
of the
understood
chaotic
a little,
universe
but
descended
there were
with a
still
loud
more
rumble.
things he didn't understand.
Not long ago, I wasn't sure. A divine might
the only
thing
beyond
we could
what
determine was the identities of you and those evil gods
and immortal
but just now,
Songhai's figures
the heavenly
and pointed
Lord
out
of
the
myriad
direction
treasures
for the hundreds of
fell
great
on
experts
outside the temple.
Just now?
It's over.
Sing Hui's heart
Immortal
skipped a
Emperor
beat.
Songhai
That
wailed
plan
in
I
despair.
had just now?
The enemy
Yes.
of the universe.
The heavenly
This
Lord
was the
of
true
myriad
enemy of the
treasures
universe. You said, just as you said, their ultimate goal is the mystery of eternity. Chapter
In other
9:37.
words, even if they know that you
An
have a
outsider
problem
has
or even
invaded
have
our
ulterior
world,
motives,
how
in order
dare
to
they?
pry the mystery
It's
of
always
eternity
been us
from you,
conquering
they
other
might
worlds.
not only not harm
No
you,
one has
but
ever
also
dared to
secretly
target
help
our
you,
universe,
allowing you to
Where
step
did
onto
this
the peak
outsider
more
come
smoothly.
from? Sing
How dare
Hui's
they
heart
act
sank.
so recklessly?
Could it be?
I've
Had
been
he really
invincible
been in our
exposed?
universe for far
He had
too
already
long?
entered the
It's a
sights
pity
of the
that
Master
the great
of
Lord
Chaos,
of Burning Blood
the
wasn't
Master
willing
of
to
Gods,
take me with him
and
in the
even
last
Master
war,
of Time.
so I didn't have the
It was
honor
just
of
that
fighting
those
other
great and
beings of the
supreme
chaos
existences were just
in the
quietly
previous rounds
waiting
of
for the
attacks,
development
the
of the
invading
situation,
worlds were weak
waiting
and
for the
didn't give
final
me a
moment
chance
to
to
harvest.
display my strength.
That scene is
Now
me
that an
finally
outsider has
manifesting
invaded
the
our
mystery
universe,
of eternity,
let's see
and it's
what kind
time
of
for them to
ability these
harvest
beings who can
the
traverse
layer
the
of
void
faint
have.
flowing light
The
around my
powerful
body
being
that contains
outside the
countless
eternal shrine
information
exuded
is the
a trace of
terrifying
eternity.
aura of life
That
and
information
rapidly
is the
approached it.
information of
Zabulu
eternity.
Teblink of the Dawn Church,
Can you feel the
resplendent
aura
star
of eternity
the great
inside?
tower? And
The
Long
heavenly
Chi
Lord
of the
of
city
myriad
of
treasures
treasures
looked at the
who had
faint
dared
flowing
to
light
announce
around
themselves
Sing
in
Hui
front
in
of the
scene
Lord
with
of
a
Burning
gloomy
Blood,
expression.
strode forward
Sing
with
Hui
great
was
strides,
silent,
looking like they
he
were
could
about
feel
to
the
barge
aura
into
of
the
eternity
eternity shrine.
inside.
They're
At the
here.
same time,
So
his
many
gaze
heavenly
fell on
monarch
himself.
realm great
At
divine
that time,
abilities.
in terms of
300.
size,
He was already
no,
not
at least
inferior to an
400
ordinary
heavenly
evil
monarch
god,
realm great
but
divine
compared to the
abilities,
Master of Chaos,
especially the
the
four
Master
leaders,
of Gods, and the
they've
Master of
definitely
Time,
reached the
he was
level
still
of
a long way
absolute
off.
masters.
In other words,
No one can
the
resist
aura
this
of
force.
eternity definitely
Even if they
didn't
were
mean
to
that he had
surround
broken
and
through
kill
the
the
divine
legendary
beast
realm of
primogenitor.
eternity.
It wouldn't be a
Moreover,
problem if he
despair
could really
filled
break
immortal
through to the
Emperor
realm of
Songhai's
eternity,
eyes.
which
He
represented
was
the
only an
ultimate of
exalted
everything,
immortal
then the
emperor,
Master of
the
Chaos,
equivalent of a
the
ruler
Master
in
of
the
Gods,
cultivation
and the
system
Master
of the
of
Lord
Time.
of Chaos.
These terrifying
He wasn't even a
existences
great
wouldn't be
master
rushing
yet,
forward
so
to
anyone of
divide
the
and devour
approaching
him.
400 great
Thus should
masters
feel
had the
fear.
power to kill
The
him.
fear of running
Even
as
though
far
Sing
away as
Hui had the
possible.
strength to stand
After
above
a
the
long
god
while,
ranking,
he
Sing
still
Hui
didn't
said
have the
flatly,
confidence to
"This is
face
good
off
news,
against
isn't it?
several hundred great
At the very
masters.
least, it's not hard to
Besides,
tell from
it had
this
only
image
been a
that I'll
short while
eventually
since
become
more
a
than
chaos
400
life
great
form and
masters
ascend
had
to the
gathered
fourth
outside
level of
the eternal
chaos.
shrine. In other
Even
words,
though the
it
eternal
doesn't matter
shrine was
even if I
located in a
work with this
special
evil god
location
now.
and was
At
essentially
the
a
very
gathering
least,
place for
I'll ascend
experts,
to the fourth
it was
level
still
of
possible
chaos
to
and
infer
become
that
a
there
true
were at least
chaos
2,000
life form.
great masters
Even
in
though
this
I don't
part
want
of
to
the
believe it,
chaosverse.
but once
The
he was
Master of
entangled with
Chaos
these
or the
400
Master of
great
Divine
gods
Arts
or the Master
practitioners,
of Time,
the 2,000
I don't know
great
if
divine
one of them
arts
or all
practitioners would
three
rush
of them
over
has
and
taken
notice
notice
of you.
would await him. That's why I
can't
have to
force
break
my
through
way
to
in.
the primal chaos
Sing
realm
Hui's
as soon
mind
as
spun
possible.
rapidly
as his gaze landed on the
Ching
will that
Su
permeated the heavenly
entire
Lord of
chaosverse.
myriad treasures
If he
words
guessed
and looked at
correctly,
the fragment of
that
laws
was
in his
probably
hand.
equivalent
I
to what
plan on
the
making a
immortal
deal
Dao
with this
civilization
evil god
called the Celestial
I'll
Will.
use this fragment of laws to exchange for the fragments of
Since the
laws
evil
of other
god,
divine
the
beasts
Lord of
in his
searing
possession,
blood,
had
the
extracted
Lord of
most
most
of
of
his
his
consciousness
opened his
and power
mouth,
from this
wanting
world,
to persuade
forming
Sing
a
Hui,
powerful
but he didn't
combination
know
of
where to
power that
start.
was equivalent
In
to
the
his
end,
true
he
form
could only
and
let out a
infiltrating
long
the Lord
sigh.
of Chaos
Then,
chaosverse.
I can
The
only
Lord
wish
of
you good
Searing
luck.
Blood didn't have
My
much
luck has
consciousness
always
left
been
in
good.
his own chaosverse.
Sing Hui smiled.
He could only follow
If there's
his
anything you
instincts
need
and
help
maintain
with,
the
just let
normal
me know.
operation of
I
his
understand.
chaosverse, which gave
Sing
the
Hui
Lord of
nodded.
Searing Blood an
I
opportunity.
don't want my trade with the
I'm a
evil god
chaos
to
life
bring
form.
any trouble to
Chaos
Jade Dragon
life forms
soaring
don't have a
victories,
fixed
so
form,
I'll be
and
taking
their
my
essence
leave
is
first.
completely
The
identical
Lord of
to the
myriad
Lord of
treasures
Burning
didn't
Blood.
urge Sing
In other
Hui to
words,
stay.
I
He
can
had to be
imitate the
responsible
Lord of
for the
Burning Blood's
immortal Dao
incarnation.
civilization.
With
There
that
was
thought,
quite a high
the
chance
law
that Green
fragment
Ruins
Sing
had
Hui
already
yet to
caught the
hand over to
attention
the
of a
evil
certain
god,
peak
the
existence.
Lord of Burning Blood,
Under these
appeared in
circumstances,
his hand.
if he stayed stayed in the Jade Dragon uniting victorious sky of the immortal Dao civilization for too long. He almost even the Jade Dragon soaring victorious sky would be within the law fragment. Perhaps his aura already been changed rapidly in the process, but due to some special reasons, even his appearance that great existence hadn't attacked the immortal Dao characteristics of the Lord of Searing Blood's after Tsing Hui's departure, sensed an indescribable connection between himself and the Lord of Myriad Treasure's palace. He felt as if he was a dragon swimming in the ocean. Since the matter everything in the ocean revolved around the Lord of Myriad Treasures summoned the void center of the entire chaotic universe. Is there something you need from Tsing Hui? It was as if he could change the will of the entire chaotic universe with a single victories. However, Lord Tsing Hui didn't last long. The void immortal and mighty will descend upon him from the void and locked onto him. He's still a bit late in the end. It wasn't as hostile as it had been before. With his keen senses, I can think of a way to contact Tsing Hui. The confusion and bewilderment in the will. Important. It
But
clearly couldn't
several
understand
thousand years
why
ago,
Tsing
Lord
Hui's
Tsing
law
Hui wanted to
fluctuations
find
were
an old
almost
friend he met
identical
when
to
he
his
was
own.
young in the
It looks
origin
like I
world.
won't be able to
Although
hide
he didn't
it for
find
long.
anyone back then
Tsing
and
Hui's
seemed to have
heart
given
sank
up,
when he
I
sensed
took
the
note
wolves
of this
spying
matter
on him,
and
but
carefully
his expression
investigated
didn't
it.
change.
2 years ago,
Lord Tsing Hui,
I finally found someone whose characteristics
Emperor
matched the
Songhai
person
watched
Lord
as
Tsing
Tsing
Hui was
Hui's
looking
aura
for.
rapidly
Now,
changed,
all that's
and a
left
trace
is for
of
Lord
confusion
Tsing Hui
appeared
to
on his
personally
despairing
verify
face.
it. The void immortal
Tsing Hui
Lord
answered
peak
carefully.
experts
The
rapidly
Lord of
approaching
myriad
from the
treasures
outside.
understood the
With a
importance
wave
of
of
that
his
person
hand,
and
the
hesitated
power of
for a
law
moment before
enveloped
saying,
immortal Emperor
"This matter
Songhai,
isn't urgent,"
causing him to
We've
become
been here
blurry.
for several
At the
thousand
same
years,
time,
so there's
the
no
four
need to be in a
supreme
hurry.
experts and many
Tsing Hui
cultivators
has more
with great
important things
abilities
to do right
finally
now,
made it into
so
the
let's
divine
not disturb
hall.
him.
Their gazes landed on
Understood.
Qing Su
When the
as soon
heavenly
as they
Lord
entered.
of myriad treasures
When these
spoke,
people's
the
gazes
void
fell on
transformation
Tsing Hui,
immortal
Tsing Hui
monarch
unhesitatingly
respectfully
used the law of the burning blood
Tsing
lord as
Hui's
a cover
figure
and
rapidly
fully
traveled,
released his
not
aura,
knowing where
which
he
was
was
equivalent to that of a 10 vein or even
He
11
thought about
vein
how
expert.
he might be targeted
For
by
a
a
moment,
supreme
a
existence
vast
who
and
was secretly
resplendent
adding
shadow
fuel
of the
to the
universe
fire.
seemed to
The
appear
world was
above his
vast,
head.
but he
The
couldn't
projection
find a
of this
safe place
shadow
to go.
formed an
The immortal
inconceivable
Dao
pressure that
civilization had
fiercely
been
attacked
destroyed
the
long
four
ago.
sovereigns and
Currently,
the many great
it
masters who
overlapped
had
with the
broken
worlds
into the
of the
temple.
Lord of Chaos,
The Lord of Gods, and the Lord of Time.
Immediately,
However,
these great
because the
masters who had
three
broken
supreme
into the temple were
existences still
shaken.
wanted to pry
Some of the
into
great
secrets
masters
of
with
eternity
weaker
from the
wills and
immortal
lower
Dao
cultivation
civilization
bases
they
felt the
hadn't
terrifying
completely
pressure
destroyed
from
it.
Tsing Hui's
In
body,
fact, they'd
which was
only
not something
overlapped
they could
10 to
possess.
20% of
After
their own
sensing the
worlds.
law aura
It
that
wasn't that
belonged
they
to the
wanted to
burning blood
overlap
lord,
more.
they
But if they
actually
did,
knelt down
the
and
laws of two
respectfully
different
shouted,
universes would
"Greetings,
collide
my
even
lord."
more violently.
My people,
At that
I have
time,
sent down a
the
clone
broken
to
immortal
assist you
Dao
in hunting
civilization
down the
would be
two
unable to
otherworldly
withstand the
visitors.
corrosion
Now,
of the laws
what are
of
you
the
waiting
worlds
for?
of the Lord of
Qing
Time,
Su
Lord of
ignored the
Gods,
regular
and
great
Lord of
ability
Chaos.
masters who had
There
knelt
was an
on the
80
ground
to
due to
90%
his pressure.
chance that it would be
Instead,
completely
he looked at the
destroyed.
four sovereigns
If that
at the
happened,
front, as well as
it would be
over a dozen
wishful thinking
experts
for them
who were
to
close
search
to
for
the
the
level
secrets
of
of
sovereigns.
eternity
His
contained in
eyes
the
were
immortal
filled with
Dao
extremely
civilization.
great pressure.
However,
Although
my
there were
lord,
still remnants
the great
of the
priest
immortal
who was
Dao
the leader of the
civilization's
four
power
sovereigns
in this
who was
territory,
roughly
if a
equivalent to a
supreme
grand
being really
expansion
wanted to
sacred
sweep his
exalt,
gaze over,
he
he
could
hesitantly
easily see
said,
through the countless remnant
according
laws
to
of
the
the
guidance
immortal
of your
Dao
will,
civilization's
the
world
otherworldly
and
visitors
lock onto
seem
his
to be
figure.
in this temple.
If he wanted to
We don't
completely
know where
shake
the
off the
otherworldly
supreme
visitors
existence
went
the
the moment
moment
they
they
arrived in our
only
universe.
head to
Because
the
of
chaos
this,
void.
I immediately used
Even the
what little
chaos
power
void
I had
wouldn't
to
work,
seal off the
unless
entire
he headed
chaotic
to the
universe
very
to
depths
prevent
of
them
the
from
chaos
escaping.
void.
Now,
But to
what you
him,
need to do
if he
is
wanted to
find
delve
them for
into
me
the
as soon
depths
as
of the
possible
chaos
and
void
inform
where
me.
even the
When
three
the time
supreme
comes,
existences
I will
couldn't
personally
pry
head
into,
over and
even if
capture
he
them
flew
in
for
one fell
millions
swoop.
or tens of
I will
millions of
interrogate
years.
them for the
He probably
coordinates
wouldn't
of
be
their
able to do
universe
it.
and begin
After
a
a
new
moment of
expedition.
thought, Tsing
High
Hui's
Priest
gaze
couldn't help
Zabulu
but
sensed
fall
the
on the crimson
omnipresent
statue.
and mighty will that
Compared to
towered above
before,
the nine
even though
heavens.
the blood-red
Even though the
statue
will
still
of the
gave him a
universe seemed to
gloomy,
indicate that the
evil, and
target was in the
powerful
shrine,
feeling,
the
compared
feeling
to
of
before,
horror he felt
the
had
will of the
faded a
universe
great
had
deal.
clearly become
From
a little
this,
blurry.
it was
as
clear
though it
that
was
even
no
if the
longer
crimson
certain that the
statue
was
was hiding
hiding
some
some
otherworldly
scheme,
visitors,
he should have the
in
ability
addition,
to fight
this
back.
being exuding
As
a
the thought
terrifying
flashed through
pressure
his mind,
indeed
he had
carried the
already
power
taken
of
out the
laws of the
blood-colored
master of the
statue.
universe.
His
The
powerful
burning
divine
bloodlord.
consciousness
As
was
the high
directly
priest,
injected
Zabulu
into the
didn't dare to
blood-colored
resist
statue,
or question it.
shaking the structure
He could
within.
only respectfully
Please show
reply,
yourself,
in
honored
accordance
one.
with the will of my lord,
As
we
soon
will
as
definitely
Tsing Hui
find
finished
those
speaking,
otherworldly
red
invaders
mist began
and
to
bring them to
diffuse
you.
from the statue.
After saying
Before
that,
long,
he bowed
it formed
respectfully
the evil
and
god's
retreated.
face made
Seeing that
entirely
great
of crimson
priest
mist.
Zabulu had
Little
retreated,
fellow,
the other
it looks
three
like you've
sovereigns
grown
and
quite well.
existences who were close
However,
to the level
you
of a
don't seem to
sovereign
have
bowed at the
fulfilled your
same
promise.
time and
I
retreated
haven't
out of the
received
temple with
any
reverence.
sacrifices during
Then
this time.
they quickly left
Although
in
you
groups
haven't
of 3
received
to
any
5 and flew
sacrifices,
off in
I
all
believe
directions.
that the few mouthfuls
Phew.
of power you've absorbed
Tsing
from this
Hui
law
heaved a
fragment
sigh
would
of
be
relief
much
when
more
he saw
efficient
these
than a
powerful
million Vermilion
existences
Realm
leave
sacrifices,
one after another.
wouldn't you say?
Beside him,
him. Immortal Emperor
Sing
Songhai
glanced
opened
at
his
the
mouth
fragment
in
in his
disbelief.
hand as he spoke.
He wanted to ask what
The
had
eyes
happened,
of the face
but he did not
formed by
know
the
where to
blood-colored
start.
mist
The
also
will of
fell
the
on the
universe
nomological
is
fragment.
ultimately a big
After
problem.
a moment of silence, the face formed by blood-colored mist
Sing
said,
Hui raised
"Then
his head and
tell
glanced
me,
at the
what do you
will of the
need in order
universe
to
that
give
was
me this
still
law
hovering above
fragment?"
him in the sky with
Barter,
a
of
heavy
course.
heart.
You can
The
trade
will
the
of the
divine
universe
beast
was
law
constantly
fragment you have
looking
for
at
my
him.
law fragment.
Although
But
he
as
had
a true
temporarily
chaos
fooled
life
the
form,
will of the
your law
universe by
fragment should be
relying on the
much
law
more
valuable
valuable
than
than
the
the
burning
divine
blood
beasts.
lord.
It would
That's
not
why
take
I would
long
be
for
at
the
a
will of the
great
universe to
disadvantage
detect
if
him.
we were to trade one
After
for
all,
one. The difference between the ratio of 1 to 10 will of the universe was equivalent to the difference between the original body and the incarnation. Perhaps he could deceive others, precious to divine beasts, but he could not deceive the incarnation of the burning forms like us. Once the will of energy I breathe in every year is enough to condense, it would lead other powerful existences like the one you have to chase after him. Therefore, no matter how many tricks he had up his sleeves, he would only be annihilated by thousands of powerful existences. You might be able to condense the many law fragments from the chaos energy you breathe in every year, but he just happened to have no better ideas. You don't even seem to be able to manifest normally. He did not even dare to leave the eternal temple. Even if you unleash all your power, action would arouse the will of the universe's suspicion and lead to the incarnations of the Master of Chaos. What should we do next? Master of Gods? Immortal Emperor Song Hai was clearly flustered. It would only be an ordinary incarnation reaction was completely reasonable for a ruler to be pursued by you to recover without being detected by the Master of Chaos. Master of Time, could not think of a better idea. In the end, he could only look at the spatial creation artifact that had been teleported here with him and refined from a part of the burning blood lord's body. The same value as a bottle of water in the heart of the person living by a river. Not detect our presence for the time crimson mist at the same time. We have to increase our strength as quickly as possible. Little fellow, you're right. I should offer different prices for the same resource. The correct way to put it was for Xing Hui to willing to trade for 10 as quickly as possible. If he could refine the fragments of the laws of the 12 divine beasts and become a true creature of chaos, the evil god would definitely be able to kill the clearly weakened lord of burning blood easily. This made Xing Hui realize that his price was all the wealth he had accumulated over countless years would belong to him. To the evil god was far beyond his imagination and become a true chaos life form. He could also tell from the side that the evil god before him was much weaker than he had imagined. His combat strength would still skyrocket that he had even agreed to Qing Su's rude offer. If dozens or hundreds of powerful existences attacked him, so he would be completely capable of swiftly killing them and retreating swiftly. Xing Hui guessed that the evil god was strong on the outside, he wouldn't have to entrust his life and death to an unknown fate like he did now. He just nodded slightly. Thinking of this, he awakened Scarlet Abyss without hesitation. In my current state, I naturally won't carry these law fragments with me. I will do my best to help you refine them in an extremely secretive place. I don't expect you to completely refine with me to go to that hidden world and retrieve for me to take out the item inside. How do I go there? I know how to go there, but to open that world's barrier, I need a portion of my power. However, my current level of power isn't enough to open that creation divine artifact and quickly turned its attention to the spatial creation divine artifact that contained many fragments of laws. Rather than calling it a creation artifact, it was more accurate to call it a rough embryo of a creation artifact that had yet to take shape. This I need to know the location of that world, as well as the method you used to open that world. In addition, to confirm the truth of your words, request wasn't to completely refine the creation power and end up with nothing. Abyss sword. The evil god instead formed by blood-red chisel a hole on the outside to further reduce the difficulty. Although your request is somewhat rude from your standpoint, I can understand your caution. Abyss sword had worked together to chisel a hole in the rough embryo of the spatial creation artifact. As the moment he did so, a piece of information was projected. Nomological fragments sensed that the information didn't contain any danger, so he digested information of no less than 100 nomological fragments. When Xing Hui's gaze fell on the method to open the world's barrier, he vaguely felt that it was familiar, but he didn't show it on his face. That's an affiliated world. Xing Hui had time to be shocked by the huge number of nomological fragments. I'll go to that world now. A huge corpse at the core of the small world quickly attracted his attention. The face formed by the bloody divine beast quickly retreated back into the statue body that resembled the human race's ancestor back into the world of the Almighty Dragon. However, divine beast couldn't help but be cautious when the burning blood ruler had killed his way into the Master of Chaos universe by the blood-red statue in the small world of the great god realm. In other words, was rumored to be the disciple of Saint Yuhua from the immortal Dao civilization. The evil god. There were even rumors on the same level as the Master of Primal Chaos. She was one of the 12 divine beasts of the Lord of Primal Chaos. Even though there are differences in strength between creation, this difference is not obvious. Yuing, by Tian, it's like the difference between the true energy stage and the never-ending stage of the Saint Realm. Hui's gaze if we want to completely seal the statue and prevent it from acting rashly, the 12 divine beast laws, expression froze. Not a single one was missing. Not long ago, he only needed to refine these nomological fragments to complete the third level of the divine creation artifact. At that time, he could wait for an opportunity to transform into a true chaos life form and the Master of Gods. There's no time to lose. When he thought of this, I'll start refining these nomological fragments right away. abyss sword and permeated it with his divine consciousness. Gaze paused for a moment on the nomological years had passed. Finally landing on White Sword had yet to refine all four divine creation artifacts. Perhaps it can help me escape my current predicament. Less than half of the second divine creation artifact. Hesitate to take out the fragment of nomological laws and let refining the first divine creation artifact. Then he began to comprehend. When the Scarlet Abyss Sword had first refined the divine creation artifact, 100 years had passed. Sing Hui had spared no effort in pouring the eternal shrine had not been the Scarlet Abyss Sword. Not only had the High Priest Zabulu requested to see him twice, 1,000 years, but there were also three unfamiliar Supreme Masters who had appeared. Was the only one refining the divine creation artifact. The will not of the entire universe had been hovering in the void, creation constantly communicating with 1,000 years. It was also nearly halfway through refining the second divine creation to determine that the patience and suspicion of the will of the universe had reached its creation artifact. Lord of searing blood's the remaining half which had been sealed by Sing Hui in the void heaven ring. Was the internal structure of out of the void heaven ring and return to his chaotic universe. Right now, for 100 years, inferior to a divine creation artifact. In a precarious situation. Logically speaking, any exposed flaw could lead to unmanageable creation artifact should be greatly reduced. Tremendous pressure. However, due to the refinement and difficulty of refining the second divine creation artifact, originally it would have taken him 200 years to refine the divine creation artifact of White Dragon. Right now, but in 100 years, he had thoroughly understood the mysteries of creation. 1,300 you can give it a try now. 1,400 years. Sing Hui's gaze fell on creation artifact might take more than 3,000 years. Mastered the power of the divine creation artifacts you refine. I have a method that will allow you to reincarnate and completely change your life and soul fluctuations. Like the cultivation method developed by Jiyun could not allow the universe and even the pursuit of many great masters. However, after refining the second divine creation artifact is that before you awaken, you'll always be much stronger than before. If you encounter any danger at this time in his hand when he had two great Tao laws. Therefore, his battle power would not be close to that of an ultimate expert. Without being discovered by the will of the universe, he would have truly reached the threshold of an ultimate expert. If the Scarlet raised his head and had glanced at the will of divine creation artifact at that time, and had already mobilized the power of laws would not penetrate his body to any of the bamboo. After a moment of consideration, he said, "I don't know how long I can last. Take it slow." According to the reaction of the will of the universe, that one day it may be the next moment, completely understand another one or the divine creation artifact and transform yourself. You can only higher level divine 200 years at most. Sing Hui encouraged. Sing Hui nodded. After feeling the joy of the Scarlet Abyss Sword. Immortal Emperor his mood improved greatly. Immediately looked at Immortal he took out the divine creation artifact guilt that was said to be able to seal the incarnation of the Master of God for help. Studied Immortal Emperor Songhai wouldn't have ended up like artifact was in the shape of a bracelet. God scheme be something that people like them could easily translucent like jade. I've learned a little during this period of time. However, the chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord is somewhat similar to that of the Lord of Gods. If a cultivator focused his mind and looked at the purple light, he would immediately notice that the purple light was like an secondary huge galaxy, primary planes, emitting the charm of the vast which roughly correspond to the four stages of the Saint Realm, Void Heaven Realm, and Chaos Realm. Sing Hui already understood the name of this divine creation artifact when he sensed it. This creation artifact was, you can grow up safely in that world of the chaotic universe the transformation of your life aura and soul aura. After spending some time and effort, he condensed it to a high degree and formed a universe, but there's a drawback, and that's that it grows slower because the material time will be slightly to a part of the Master of Chaos. I'll leave an imprint because it was refined. If you haven't awakened yet, I'll go to the secondary naturally astonishing. Even though I could not seal the Master of Gods and Time's incarnations, I'll have to ask you to help me easily seal their incarnations for a period of time. Although the statue of the evil god in his hand was to appear magnanimous at this time to avoid was not as high as the Master of Gods and Time's incarnation. There's no time to lose. Its remaining strength was probably weaker than the Master of Gods and Time's incarnation, so it would not be difficult to seal it and walk out of the eternal shrine. Of course, almost as soon as evil god wanted to break out of the eternal shrine seal, the aura it would naturally have to use its full strength. And the will of the original operation of the universe descended from the sky at the same time and locked after spending a year to understand the void heaven rings function. A man whose battle strength was close to that of a divine creation artifact, and my lord, evil god's incarnation into the void heaven ring. This was after throwing the blood-colored statue of the evil god's incarnation into the void heaven ring. It's been 100 years, and you still haven't brought me any useful information. The evil god's incarnation's reaction. and I've
As
lost my
expected,
patience with
the
you.
evil god's
Thus,
incarnation
I don't intend to
immediately
continue waiting
manifested
like
as
this.
soon as it was
I will
thrown
personally
into the
go to
void
find
heaven
those
ring.
otherworldly
Like
invaders
numerous
and capture
tentacles,
them. The evil
Sing
god's
Hui said
incarnation
indifferently,
attempted to
"My
penetrate
lord,
the void
please
heaven
give
ring
us some more
periphery.
time.
It was
Your people
obvious
promise
that the
you that
evil
will
god
definitely
had
bring you
sensed the difference in
satisfactory
the
answers
answers
in 300
However,
years at
the
most."
blood-colored
Aoya
tentacles
said
did not last
respectfully.
for long before
However,
the evil
he
god's
stood in front of
incarnation
Sing
seemed
Hui's
to have
path
thought of
and did
something.
not intend
The
to let him
tentacles
leave.
rapidly
Moreover,
retracted,
300
and very
years,
soon, the
that
void
in
heaven
itself
ring returned to
represented
normal,
something.
as if
This
nothing
was
had
because
happened.
Sing Hui could not last another 300
Very good.
years under the
void
watchful
heaven
eyes
ring
of the
is indeed
universe's will.
effective.
Even
The evil
200
god's
years
strength
was a problem.
Is much weaker than I imagined.
Who gave you the courage
However,
to block my
based
path?
on the Master of
Sing
Gods and
Hui's
Time's
expression
expression
suddenly became
extremely
it can be
stern.
inferred that he is
Before
stronger than the
Aoya,
Grand
who was
Expansion
not
Holy
inferior
Sovereign,
to Great Emperor
but not
Qishao,
at the level
could
of
react.
the Master
He
of
had
Gods
already
and Time's
unsheathed his
incarnation.
sword.
The
Based on this
Scarlet
series
Abyss
of
sword
changes,
was based on the
Sing Hui
coalescence
had a
great
direct
Tao and surrounded
understanding
by
of
the
the
evil
evil
god's
god's
true body's current
Finally,
strength.
it was
The evil
disguised
god's
by
true
the power
body
was
was
only
only
of
at
the
the burning
burning
blood lord's
or
power of
even
laws
2
and
vein
slashed
stones.
straight at Aoya.
However, according to what Sing Hui
the
knew,
sword wind
the
formed
clones
a
of the
sword
Master of
chi
Gods,
storm,
the
causing
Master of
Aoya,
Time,
who wanted
and
to
the
block
others
it,
were
to
only
retreat
at the level
rapidly.
of a 4-vein
Even
world
so,
protector.
he was still a little
However,
slower.
their
The
control
sword
and
chi that
understanding of
erupted from
power
the Scarlet
far
Abyss
surpassed
sword
that of
carried
any
the power
great
to
master.
cut through the void
With a
and
boost
pierce
from their
countless
secret
holes in
techniques,
Aoya's body.
4-vein world protectors
Moreover,
could
it
easily
plowed out of the
unleash the
eternal
battle
prowess
prowess
of a
of a 10-vein,
momentum,
11-vein,
leaving behind
or 12
100
vein
million
world protector.
kilometer-wide
To the
chasm in
Master
the
of
void
Gods and the
outside
Master of
shrine.
Time, size was not everything.
This
Only the
chaotic
Lord
universe
of Primal Chaos would
actually
be able
has
to
such
send
a
down
strong
an
restriction
incarnation that
on
was
extraordinary
at
power?
the 7-patterned
Is
level.
it because the universes
Sometimes,
will
if the Lord of Primal
extraordinary
Chaos couldn't
power
control
when it
his
sealed the universe
incarnation
100
well,
years
it
ago,
wouldn't be strange
or
for
does
him
the
to
universe
send down an
itself have
8-patterned
such a
or
strong
9-patterned
restrictive force?
incarnation?
Or
Even if the
am I
Lord of
being
Primal
targeted
Chaos
by the
had a simple
universe's will?
secret technique, or
After
after slashing
combat
out with his
technique,
sword,
the Lord
Sing
of
Hui
Primal
quickly
Chaos would
sensed
still
the
be able to
universe's
crush his
restrictive
opponent
effect
through
on
sheer
him.
power.
Or rather,
3-vein
on this
level
world.
of energy.
Sensing the
It's roughly
hostility of the
equivalent to a
universe's
10-vein
will,
level of
Sing
battle
Hui's
prowess.
expression
I
changed
wonder
slightly.
if he has a creation
Ignoring
divine
Aoya's
artifact.
frantically
After
retreating
all,
body,
an
he took a
avatar
step
with a
forward
creation
and
divine
disappeared
artifact
into the
and an
horizon.
avatar without one are
This
two
is definitely
entirely
not
different
the power of our
concepts.
Lord.
Sing Hui
Although
muttered
this
to
power
himself.
is so strong
Although he
that
had
it is
only
not
refined
inferior
6
to
types
the
of
Primordial
Primordial
laws
before killing great
the
sovereigns
essence
of
of
this
this
power
power
and
is
great Emperor
definitely not
Qishao.
our Lord's.
His battle
I
prowess
must
was
immediately
roughly
pass
at the
this
level of a
news to the
9-vein
high
world
priest.
protector.
This evil
Now
god
that he
from
from
another
another
world
world
dares
dares
to
to blaspheme
blaspheme
our
our
Lord.
laws,
His
he will
battle
be condemned
and
and
nearing the
punished by
level
the
of an
heavens.
11-vein world
Aoya
protector.
growled and
If the
quickly
evil
rushed
god
in the
did not have
direction
a
of the high
creation divine
priest.
artifact,
Although there
it
were
would not
also
be
many
difficult for him
powerful
to
suppress
suppress
the
the evil
outside
god.
the shrine,
But if
they
he
could
did,
not help but
he could
slow
only
down when they
avoid
saw
the
that
brunt of the
Aoya was
attack.
defeated by Sing
Damn
Hui
it,
in a
a
single
camel
blow.
is still bigger
In
than a
this
horse.
moment of delay,
Sing Hui
Sing
sighed
Hui had
emotionally
already
as he
rushed out of the
soundlessly
range of the
returned to the
eternal
divine
shrine.
wilderness
It was
great
no
world.
longer easy for
The
them to
divine
surround
wilderness
and
great
catch up to
world
him
was
again.
now thriving.
Whoosh! As the dragon
Sing
sword
Hui's
heavenly
figure
sovereign
shuttled
and
back
Gu
and
Xuanzu
forth,
and conquered
trying
the
to get
forces
rid of
under
those
the command of
powerful
great Emperor
existences.
Qishao
But
and
to
the 8-armed
his
dragon god.
expression became
Countless
solemn.
resources
The
poured
universe's
into the
will.
divine wilderness
The
great
universe's
world.
will was
The
actually
entire
constantly
divine
casting
wilderness
its gaze
great
on
world
him.
once again
No matter where
welcomed
he
an
fled
explosive
to, as long
development.
as he was still
Cultivators
in this
of
chaotic
the divine
universe,
true
he
body
could
realm,
not escape
the
the prying
traversal realm,
eyes of the
and the
universe's
boundary
will.
realm with a thought
With the
realm
guidance of the
emerged one
universe's
after
will,
another like
no matter
bamboo
where he
shoots
fled
after a
to,
spring
those
rain.
powerful existences would catch up with him
In
at
less
the
than
fastest
1,000 years.
speed. The number
Rumble.
of Supremes had soared
Sing
to
Hui
double
shuttled
digits.
back and forth,
Even if the green
quickly
ruins
breaking
and
through
the
the
barrier
barrier
between
between
the
the
higher
higher
plane
taken
and the
into
main
account.
plane. The divine
Then,
wilderness
without waiting
great
for the
world
universe's
could be said
will
to
to
be
catch up,
famous
he
among the
directly
dozens of great
stimulated the
worlds
power
in the
of laws
surroundings
that belonged to
Moreover,
the burning blood
as the
lord to
divine
the
wilderness
extreme
great
and
world
temporarily
continued to
obtained
develop,
the right to
the
use
number
the
of
entire
experts
universe.
continued
to increase. Relying on this temporary right to use the main plane sect,
the
rules
also
of the main divine wilderness great world and entered the territories of
even
the
the universe
dragon god and great
emperor
emperor Qishao. Taking advantage of this opportunity,
of the two
Sing
forces
Hui's
with the
gaze
divine
fell on a
wilderness
huge
great
country
world
in front
and
of him.
established the
To be
Hunyuan
precise,
Empire with
it
the
was in the
Hunyuan
body of a
sword
pregnant
sect as the
concubine in
foundation.
the imperial
Supreme
palace of
elder
that country.
Sing Hui was
Don't
conferred the
resist.
title of Hunyuan
Sing
Sword
Hui
Emperor.
growled at immortal
Qing
Emperor
Su was
Tinghai.
unaware of
The
these
law of
developments.
creation operated,
When he arrived
and in
at
an
the divine
instant,
wilderness
immortal
great
Emperor
world,
Songhai
he did
was
not alert the
transformed
people
into
of
a
the origin
life force
sword
that
sect.
entered the body
Instead,
of the concubine.
he immediately found immortal Emperor
After
Songhai,
sending immortal
who was
Emperor
overseeing
Songhai
the
away,
transmission array
Sing
on the
Hui
Fortune
exhaled
mainland,
deeply and handed over the method to open the great world.
Looking
that
at the
fiend
law
god's
fragment
true
that was
body
about
had
to be
given him.
exhausted,
Immortal
his expression
Emperor,
darkened.
I feel that this method
I have to
is a
hurry
little
as well,
familiar, but
I
I've
would like
already
you to
comprehended
analyze
the
it.
law of creation, so it won't be difficult for me to awaken my memories. Sing Hui's eyes darted around. Soon, a large territory tens of millions of kilometers away from here attracted his attention. Because he was currently in the state of fusing with the law fragment of the Burning Blood Lord, he had almost obtained full authority over the entire chaotic universe. Relying on the wonders of this authority, he faintly sensed that there was a considerable mystery hidden in that territory, as if there was a passage that extended beyond the main plane and even into the distant chaotic void. Could it be that there's a way to smuggle me out of this world in that territory? This thought flashed through Tsing Hui's mind. However, the will of the universe was about to enter this world, so he didn't have much time to think. First, he poured all the power in his body into the Void Heaven Ring in his hand, reinforcing the Void Heaven Ring's seal to prevent Burning Blood Lord from escaping during this period of time. Meanwhile, he refined the small world that belonged to Burning Blood Lord into the Scarlet Abyss Sword, then put the Scarlet Abyss Sword back into his body. Rumble. Just as Tsing Hui was about to activate the law of creation and turn into a beam of light and fly toward that territory, a terrifying shockwave spread out. Under the influence of a great force, the entire main plane seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Not good. Tsing Hui's expression changed. Someone wants to destroy this plane. I have to lure them away. He'd actually overlooked this point. With that in mind, he forcefully split off a portion of his soul and fused it back into the law fragment that belonged to the Burning Blood Lord. Forcefully splitting his soul without any preparation at all immediately dealt severe damage to Ching Su's consciousness. The intense pain knocked him unconscious on the spot. As he fainted, all he could do was vaguely give an order to the power of the soul he had split off from his clone: lure them away. Lure all of the pursuers away to another plane. The farther away, the better. Chapter 939. He did not know how much time had passed. The injury caused by the forceful splitting of his god's soul was slightly alleviated. Tsing Hui, who was in a daze, suddenly woke up. Tsing Hui, who opened his eyes, was keenly aware of the abnormality of his body. However, it was right that he was different. In order to avoid the prying eyes of the will of the universe, he used the law of creation to reshape himself from the inside out. It would be strange if he was still exactly the same as before. Tsing Hui looked around. This was a rather spacious courtyard. The scenery of the courtyard was extremely charming, and it showed that this family was rich and powerful. Considering that he had chosen to reshape his life as a great feudal lord, this kind of treatment was reasonable. He looked at his own body. He should be 100 years old, which meant that he had lost consciousness for at least 100 years. In the past 100 years, this life had instinctively derived a consciousness, but this consciousness had been completely devoured by Tsing Hui the moment he woke up. Tsing Hui closed his eyes and carefully recalled, although that consciousness was a derivative of his main consciousness, Tsing Hui himself was a powerhouse who had climbed to the peak of cultivation. If he did not take into account the fact that he was ganged up on, his cultivation base could easily defeat anyone except for the will of the universe. With such a strong foundation, the consciousness he derived had been extremely outstanding since young. In just 100 years, it had cultivated the cultivation system of this world to the intermediate silver level. The cultivation system of this world was much simpler than the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos. It could be roughly divided into 11 major realms: mortal, transcendent, iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, astral, moonlight, glorious sun, and legendary. Because this world greatly suppressed the power of law, the mortal and transcendent realms directly included the immortality realm and the saint realm. Above that was iron to legendary, which corresponded to the 6 divine realms and the 3 chaotic realms. The intermediate silver level was equivalent to the vacuum-crushing level in the divine realm. It didn't seem very high, but because the resources in the mortal plane weren't as plentiful as those in the higher realms, most people would choose to leave the mortal plane and enter the higher realms after reaching the astral rank. As a result, there were usually only a few hundred or even a few dozen astral and moonlight ranks in the mortal plane. That was the rank from world creation to autarch. In other words, the cultivation level of a main plane was similar to that of the Kuan Dragon world and the True Sun world, but its surface area was much larger. Under such circumstances, a 100-year-old void-shattering realm expert was naturally outstanding. Sing-Hui took a look at the memories and heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that the will of the universe did not see through my disguise at the last moment. In the end, he looked at his bracelet. This bracelet was the Void Heaven Ring, which was his companion. As for what was sealed inside, needless to say, it was naturally the Burning Blood Lord. In the final moment when he used the laws of creation, he channeled most of his power into the Void Heaven Ring and sealed up the Lord of Burning Blood. As a result, the Lord of Burning Blood, who was already extremely weak, became completely feeble after intimidating Qing Su. When Qing Su used the laws of creation to reincarnate, the Lord of Burning Blood also sank into a state of slumber, never waking up even now. Fortunately, I haven't woken up yet. Otherwise, if the Burning Blood Lord started to cause trouble now, I really wouldn't have any way to stop him. Sing-Hui withdrew his gaze from the Void Heaven Ring and quickly sensed the immortal Tao civilization in the depths of his mental world. Too much power had been used to seal the Void Heaven Ring, so the immortal Tao civilization's illusory world also looked a little dim. Fortunately, the foundation of the immortal Tao civilization was the creation jade, so its foundation was impregnable. Even if the immortal Tao civilization dimmed, it showed no signs of collapse. As long as he spent some time recovering, the immortal Tao civilization would be able to shine again. He could also slowly refine the other 3 law fragments into the Unity Great Tao and complete the 3rd level of the Tao Disc. The laws of this world have almost been completely sealed off by the will of the universe. Sing-Hui frowned slightly after sensing the great Tao laws in the world. At this rate, it'll take 30 to 40,000 years for this world to recover to its peak. Only then can I begin to refine the law fragments. The recovery rate is more than 100 times slower than in the Lord of Chaos domain. Even if I can enter the chaos, I can still compress the recovery time to less than 3,000 years. Sing-Hui recalled the faint passageway that seemed to be connected to the chaos in this domain, and immediately reinvigorated himself. If he wanted to escape this world, he would probably have to make a move on this family. Let me see what's so special about this family. Sing-Hui spread his divine will at once, enveloping this large domain that spanned over 100,000 kilometers. Against the power of laws, this world calls it extraordinary power. The will of the universe's suppression of extraordinary power is truly formidable. According to the information I'd received before, 200 years ago, before I came to this universe, the Pinnacle Platinum Champions could still destroy a mountain range over 10,000 kilometers in a single blow despite the universe suppressing the display of extraordinary power. Legendary champions at the Pinnacle could even destroy a main plane with a diameter of 100 trillion kilometers in a single blow, but 200 years ago, the activity of extraordinary factors in the universe fell to an unprecedented low. Today, even a Pinnacle Platinum champion would tire himself half to death just to destroy a mountain range over 1,000 kilometers in a single blow, let alone a mountain range over 10,000 kilometers in a single blow. The direct effect of the decreased activity of extraordinary factors was a decrease in destructive power. However, Sing-Hui understood that the greatest effect was actually the ability to travel between planes, making it extremely difficult to cross the barriers between universes. Without extraordinary factors, it was equivalent to not being able to borrow the power of laws. Without the power of laws, it was almost impossible to transcend this chaotic universe and escape into the chaos. This was a change made by the will of the universe to trap him. It was equivalent to turning the entire chaotic universe into a prison to imprison an intruder like him. If it's only because I offended the Burning Blood Lord, he shouldn't have mobilized so many people to deal with me. There's an 80 to 90% chance that he guessed that the Fortune Divine Jade Fragment is with me, because he was the one who stole the Fortune Divine Jade Fragment from the Primal Chaos Master. He also knows that the Fortune Divine Jade is in the Divine Wilderness Great World, and that I was born in the Divine Wilderness Great World and rose to power in such a short period of time. After understanding the cause and effect of this matter, Sing-Hui was even more anxious to escape from this chaotic universe. His family. There's a very strange area in this area. It doesn't seem to have any secrets, but in fact, it's because of an extremely clever disguise. Unfortunately, I can't see through this disguise in my current state. If I'm not mistaken, the secret of this territory that I learned 100 years ago is hidden in that area. Sing Hui's divine sense swept the area for a moment before quickly withdrawing it. His power system was different from the power system of this world. Even if it was of a much higher grade than this world's, he didn't dare to use it without restraint, lest someone use some special technique to detect it. Why are you still here? The elders of the Council of Elders are about to arrive. Every time they leave the mountain, they'll select a few disciples and bring them back to the ancestral land for training. Even if we can't be chosen by the elders, if we perform well, we'll be able to raise the ranking of our family's successors and receive resources for the next 10 years. Just as Sing Hui was digesting the information left behind by this body, an anxious voice sounded. At the same time, a woman who was much older than him arrived. Thanks to the memories of this body, Sing Hui quickly figured out who this woman was. She was Angie, this body's older sister. I'll be right there, Sing Hui said. Thanks to your age, your ranking has risen from 109th to 94th. You've made it into the top 100. You're the one closest to success in our bloodline. No matter what, you have to fight for our honor. Even if you don't want to go to the ancestral land, you have to get more resources. Only then will you have hope of becoming an elder of the family and leading our bloodline to prosperity. Angie pulled Sing Hui toward the center of the territory. The ancestral land? Sing Hui thought carefully and immediately understood. The ancestral land of the Yin family was the special area that had been disguised by an extremely clever method. Very good. Sing Hui's thoughts turned, and he quickly asked, I want to compete for the opportunity to go to the ancestral land. What do you think? The Yin family was one of the top aristocratic families. There were dozens of astral realm ancestors in the family. However, Sing Hui had just used the power of the illusory immortal Tao world to sense that there were many legend rank experts hidden in the family. However, these people were hidden very well. Even Sing Hui couldn't catch their real traces. Go to the ancestral land? The possibility is too low. If you want to go to the ancestral land, only the number one person in the 3 groups has the right to go. If you had your current cultivation 10 years ago, there would be a glimmer of hope. But now you're 109 years old. You've been divided from the youth group under 100 years old to the youth group between 100 and 300 years old. There are dozens of people in the youth group who are at the intermediate silver rank like you. The most outstanding ones, Angie, Anya, and Anthony, are all at the beginner gold rank. You don't have much hope against them. That's not necessarily true. Angie, Anya, and Anthony, the youngest of the 3, Anya, is already over 240 years old. I'm only 109 years old. If we're both at the gold rank, I believe that the ancestor will choose me in the end, not them. Angie was stunned by Sing Hui's words, both at the gold rank? The next moment she was pleasantly surprised. You're at the gold rank? How is that possible? There's a crucial factor between the gold and silver ranks, and that's to condense a gold body. To do that, you need a lot of resources. Since you've only broken through to the intermediate silver rank less than 10 years ago, our family hasn't started preparing for you. How did you? Just wait and see, Angie. Sing Hui said as he strode towards the training ground. He had been known as a genius since he was young. So, if he were to appear even more monstrous and use his talent to come into contact with the family's hidden passage to the chaotic void, then sneak out, that would be the best choice. Chapter 940. As an ancient aristocratic family that had a legacy of over 400,000 years and had a powerhouse who could create a world with a single thought, the scale of the Andersons was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even if there was no supernatural power in this world, and cultivators who were equivalent to astral rank could not create a world with a single thought and had an endless lifespan, the tens of thousands of years of lifespan still allowed the family to prosper and develop. Today, the entire family had over 400 branches, and each branch had tens of thousands of family members. Some of the larger branches even had up to 100,000 members. For such a large family, there were only 28 seats in the Elder Council, which showed how much power the elders had. To become an elder, one must have the qualifications to go to the ancestral land to cultivate. Otherwise, even if one had cultivated to platinum rank or even astral rank, one would not be accepted into the Elder Council. At most, one would only be able to become a great deacon. Looks like the so-called cultivation in the ancestral land, on one hand, is to determine if there are spies who have infiltrated the family. On the other hand, it's to carry out a series of brainwashing education to prevent the family's secrets from being exposed. Sing Hui's mind was digesting in Yi's memories, and his figure had already appeared in the Andersons' big hall. At this moment, the hall was already filled with people. The entire hall was divided into 2 levels. At the top level, the family's upper echelons were drinking and chatting on a spacious grandstand while drinking and enjoying themselves. At the bottom level, there was a huge arena and a grandstand area that could accommodate 300,000 people. Whether it was the grandstand or the arena, they were all built with extremely sturdy materials, filled with a condensed and sturdy beauty. In this world, supernatural power had been suppressed even more in the past 200 years. A punch from a gold-tier powerhouse who was equivalent to a divine true body could only destroy an area of 10 kilometers. If their destructive power were to be divided equally in this arena, the most they could do was to create a few holes that were a few meters or a dozen meters wide. That was all. When Sing Hui arrived at the arena, there were 2 people fighting fiercely in the arena. Both of them were silver level. One of them was a beginner silver level, while the other was an intermediate silver level. The lifespan of the cultivators in this world is not like that of the Lord of Chaos's cultivation system. Once you reach the Golden Core stage, once you reach the Divine True Body stage, once you reach the World Creation stage, and once you reach the Transcendent stage, your lifespan will reach 300 to 400 years. If you become an Iron Human, you can live up to 600 years old. Then, you will reach the Bronze Life stage, Silver Life stage, Gold Life stage, and Platinum Life stage. Every increase in cultivation level is a sublimation of life, which can increase your lifespan to 800 years old, 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, and 3,000 years old. This was also the reason why the Yin family referred to those under 100 years old as the juvenile group, those between 100 and 300 years old as the youth group, and those above 300 years old as the adult group. Life sublimation, starlight, moonlight, sun, and finally legendary life. Qing Su carefully went over the cultivation system of this world in his mind. It felt like he was evolving toward a chaos life form. However, he had yet to come into contact with the cultivation method above starlight, so he didn't know if this conjecture was true or not. If it was true, then it was necessary to collect the cultivation system of this world. He had been able to evolve into a chaos life form purely by chance, relying on the fortune jade. Compared to the chaos life form that cultivated step by step, he was equivalent to someone who had started out halfway, and his foundation was completely incomparable. If he could supplement this foundation, his process of evolving into a chaos life form after cultivating the 3rd level of the Tao disc would be much smoother. An E over here. An E is here. Brother An E, are you going to go on stage this time and show off your talents to the esteemed elders? While Tsing Hui was pondering, Angie had already brought him to the spectator stand where the people of her lineage were. For a moment, a dozen youths gathered around at the same time, and even some of the elders of their lineage had their eyes on Tsing Hui. An E, how about it? Do you want to go up and give it a try? Among the elders, a middle-aged man with an advanced gold cultivation said with a hint of encouragement. Tsing Hui quickly recognized this person through An Yi's memories. It was the patriarch of his lineage, Enkano. Enkano's lineage was ranked around 95th or 96th among the 400 branches of the Yin family, which was considered to be above average. The ones with the greatest authority in the family were the patriarch, Enkano, who was an intermediate deacon, and his current body's father, Insua. However, it was all thanks to Qing Su that Insua could become an intermediate attendant of the clan. The reason why his lineage was able to rise from the top 100 to the top 100 was also because of his outstanding performance since young. This was also the reason why everyone in his lineage was filled with anticipation for him. Sing Hui met everyone's gaze with a smile. Of course I'm going to give it a try. I gained a lot from my training outside 4 years ago. Patriarch, and he said that he condensed a gold body and broke through to the gold rank. Anya, who was like a blabbermouth at the side, couldn't wait to speak. Gold rank? And Kano was stunned for a moment before he was overjoyed. And is what Angie said true? You really condensed a gold body and stepped into the gold life realm? Oh my god. This is unbelievable. And he actually broke through to the gold rank. A gold rank at the age of 109. And he is definitely the most outstanding genius in the Yin family in the past 100 years. He's comparable to the third elder's granddaughter, En Weiwei. And Weiwei broke through to the gold rank when she was 108 years old. Now, she's only 210 years old, and she's already at the pinnacle of the platinum rank. She just needs an opportunity to ignite the starlight and step into the starlight realm to become the youngest elder in the Yin family in the past 1,000 years. And Yi's branch suddenly burst into uncontrollable exclamations, and the sound quickly spread out. What? And Yi condensed a gold body and broke through to the gold rank? That fellow Enkano is really lucky. Such a genius was actually born from his lineage. And Yi has been known as a genius since he was young. He was only at the intermediate silver rank in the last competition, right? I didn't expect him to break through so quickly. He's already surpassed his peers. All sorts of discussions were heard, and Kano intentionally added fuel to the fire. Soon, it spread to the second floor of the conference hall. The senior deacons, grand deacons, and elders in the conference hall heard about it. What's going on over there? After a while, a female elder who looked to be in her 30s and was full of grace and elegance finally asked about this matter. Elder Angela, it's a little genius from Ankano's lineage. He's outstanding. I heard that he condensed a gold body and became a gold life realm at the age of 109. A senior deacon who belonged to the female elder's lineage replied with a smile beside her. Condensed a gold body at the age of 109? Elder Angela smiled and looked at a middle-aged man beside her. Elder Angus, this little genius talent is comparable to your granddaughter's. The middle-aged man was chatting with the current patriarch, Nan. He pondered for a moment and nodded after hearing Elder Angela's words. Indeed, he's very talented. The most outstanding ones in this year's competition are Anli, Anya, and Anthony. I originally planned to take 1 or 2 of them away. Since this little guy called an E is so outstanding, I'll let him go. If he really condenses a gold body, it means that he has a lot of potential in his family. When the time comes, I'll bring him to the ancestral land to train him. That's right. Elder, I'll let him go and show his cultivation base. Please take a look, Elder. As Anan spoke, he summoned a guard and passed down the order. Soon, the guard passed the order to Patriarch Enkano, who told Sing Hui with a surprised expression, "An E, that's great. The 3rd elder and the 10th elder have heard about your talent. They hope that you'll participate in the next round. When the time comes, you must perform well. As long as the 2 elders are satisfied with your performance, there's a high chance that you'll be brought to the ancestral land by the 2 elders." Sing Hui nodded. His goal was to go to the ancestral land and find out the truth about this mysterious family. Just the gold body alone isn't amazing enough. I can't guarantee that I'll win. Moreover, I need to build a foundation for my performance. Then, it's best that I condense a perfect gold body. Sing Hui quickly came up with a plan. This cultivation system required one to temper one's body at the iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and beyond. According to the degree of tempering, the body was usually divided into 3 ranks: ordinary, excellent, and perfect. The difference between these 3 ranks was very small. If the cultivator didn't use his full strength, no one would know the rank of the body, and it wouldn't affect the subsequent breakthroughs. Even if the cultivator broke through with an ordinary body, they could still step into the astral rank. However, This was related to the cultivator's future development potential. As a peak expert, Qing Su understood after some careful analysis from these classifications. An ordinary body would not only be able to reach the starlight rank, but reaching the moonlight rank would also be a piece of cake. However, reaching the glorious sun rank would be extremely difficult, while an excellent body would be stuck at the bottleneck of legendary life forms. Although it was not impossible to break through in their entire lives, they would have to put in 10 times, or even several dozen times more effort than their predecessors for even a sliver of hope. Only by tempering the body with a perfect gold body would one be able to smoothly reach the legendary rank. And Yi did refine an excellent body at the iron rank, but the bronze and silver ranks are just ordinary bodies. Xing Hui thought to himself as the power of the laws of the grand path of unity poured down from the illusory immortal Dao civilization and began to cleanse and batter his body. The grand path of unity was his fundamental great path, equivalent to the foundation of his chaos life form. Compared to the so-called gold, platinum, and even legendary life forms, the chaos life form was undoubtedly much stronger. Under the cleansing of the chaos life form's fundamental foundation, the flaws he'd left behind in the iron, bronze, and silver ranks were silently fixed. Soon, the silver body that had been fixed to its perfect form transformed once more. A perfect gold body was formed in a matter of breaths without alerting anyone. At this moment, the duel on the stage was announced to be over, and the next round was about to begin. Under the personal guidance of the clan leader's personal guard, Xing Hui stepped forward and walked towards the center of the arena. Chapter 941. Xing Hui was led to the stage by the guard. Before the platinum-level guard could step down, a figure had already stepped onto the stage impatiently. It was the famous gold ranker of the younger generation, Anthony. Anthony looked at Xing Hui in front of him and roared, "What do you have to be chosen by the elders in advance? Now, let me break your strong appearance and let the elders see who is the most outstanding existence in the youth group." Xing Hui looked at the angry Anthony in front of him and knew that what he did was against the interests of others. However, he was too lazy to explain too much to a divine true body level practitioner. He made a "do whatever you want" gesture and stood there quietly, waiting for him to attack. "You're courting death." It was a simple action, but Anthony was completely enraged. He roared and his body suddenly grew from less than 2 meters to 4 meters. His body was emitting a golden light. This was a secret technique that only gold rankers could master, the golden battle form. Die! After revealing his golden battle form, Anthony threw a punch with the advantage of being in a higher position. It carried the force of Mount Tai as it smashed towards Xing Hui. The friction between the pure force and the air created a deafening roar. It was like a thunderbolt exploding from the ground. It blew up the air in front of him, and at the same time, it seemed like the weak creature in front of him was blown up as well. It seemed like Xing Hui faced the attack of the giant in front of him. He leaned his left foot forward and moved his right foot back. He stood sideways and squatted slightly. Then his right hand moved slightly backward, clenched into a fist, and bent. At the moment when the gigantic monster's terrifying attack was about to descend, he punched out with a loud bang. The dust where Xing Hui was standing was rolled up by the force of his punch, forming a sharp tornado. It instantly collided with the thunderbolt attack of Anthony's golden battle form. Boom! The ground was struck by a thunderbolt. Crack! The sound of countless stone slabs shattering resounded throughout the battlefield. The shockwave formed by the collision of the two fists swept across the ground, causing the arena to shatter into pieces. Countless stone fragments floated in the air due to this terrifying shockwave. In the next second, they were swept away by a terrifying storm and spread out wildly, covering an area of 1,000 meters around the arena. If it wasn't for the defensive force field in the arena, this collapsing force would have swept up the stone fragments and rushed in all directions, smashing all life forms below the iron body level into pieces. That's it. Xing Hui did not seem to notice that his legs had sunk into the ground. He continued to provoke Anthony with his eyes. "You?" Anthony looked at Xing Hui. He did not expect that this kid, who had not even revealed his golden battle body, would be able to block his punch. However, in the next moment he roared and attacked again. Go to hell! Rumble! The shockwaves caused by the collision of the two fist forces instantly exploded in the arena. Huh! That little guy called an E actually didn't use his golden battle body? Did he not learn the secret technique to activate his golden battle body? Without using his golden battle body, he actually blocked Anthony's attack? On the second floor, Elder Angela, who called out Tsing Hui, looked at the arena curiously. This kid has a strong foundation. His foundation is very solid. Third Elder Angus said with a smile. This doesn't seem to be as simple as having a solid foundation. Angela looked at the two people who were constantly colliding with each other. Her expression gradually became serious. As Elder Angela's attitude changed, Angus also became slightly more serious. His eyes kept sizing up Tsing Hui, as if he was paying attention to every curve of his body, every muscle, and every way he exerted force. Under this constant sizing up, a somewhat shocking guess appeared in the minds of the two elders. Could it be? It's very possible. On the side, Cheng Teng, who was listening to the two elders, thought of something. Could it be that you're talking about perfect body? Watch, we'll know when we see, Angus said in a deep voice. As time passed, the battle in the arena continued, and the commotion caused by the two people's battle became louder and louder. The spectators gradually became excited. I didn't expect an E to be so strong. Anthony is the most promising person to win the championship in the youth group. An E, who has just stepped into the gold rank, can actually fight Anthony to a draw. It's simply incredible. An E? That genius from the youth division? He just got promoted to the youth division, and he can fight Anthony to such an extent? Anthony even activated his golden battle body, and he still can't do anything to him? You have to win, you have to win. The winner is not guilty. An E, come on, defeat him. Outside the arena, there were continuous cheers. There were opponents of an E in the youth division, powerhouses who were expected to compete for the top 10 in the youth division, and most of them were members of an Yi's family. In the end, Tsing Hui didn't disappoint them. The head-on clash lasted for quite a few minutes, and in the end, Anthony was the first to give out. Maintaining the golden battle constitution drained his strength extremely severely. Coupled with the fact that he had unleashed his full strength, every single punch basically contained his full strength, so the drain on his physical strength increased exponentially. As his physical strength ran out, the golden battle constitution vanished. Ching Su only needed a single punch to knock him out, forcing him to the ground. Thank you for your cooperation. Tsing Hui moved his body slightly and pulled out half of his body that was embedded in the ground. You won. Anthony gasped violently and looked at Tsing Hui with disbelief in his eyes. Without the golden battle body, how could you withstand my attacks for so long? You'll know when you find out. Ching Su smiled faintly. Even though he had not expended much effort to deal with Anthony, in order to make himself appear more normal, he also acted like he was panting for air, like he was at the end of his rope. That's great. You won. An E, you won. You actually defeated Anthony. Now, no one will doubt you when you go to the ancestral land. When the battle ended, Encano and the others rushed over with excited expressions. Tsing Hui nodded slightly. Soon, the Patriarch's guard came to Tsing Hui again and said with a smile, Annie? The Patriarch and the elders want you to go over. Follow me. Go and eat. You must be respectful in front of the elders. Encano said. Tsing Hui smiled. He wanted to sneak into the Yin family's ancestral land and find out the Yin family's secret. Naturally, he wouldn't throw a tantrum over such a small matter. He followed the guard to the second floor. As soon as they reached the second floor, Elder Angela was the first to walk over. Annie? Greetings, Elder Angela. Not bad, young man. It seems like Encano has taught a genius recently. Angela said with a smile. Ah, young man, let me take a look. Encano laughed and patted Tsing Hui's shoulder. As soon as he patted Tsing Hui's shoulder, An invisible energy immediately penetrated Tsing Hui's body. Tsing Hui knew Ancano was probing his foundation, so he pretended not to notice and bowed again. After confirming that Tsing Hui had indeed cultivated the perfect body, Ancano's smile widened. Good, young man. Your foundation is very solid. Go and tell your family that you'll follow us back to the ancestral land in half a month. In other words, Ancano had promised Lin Huang a spot to cultivate in the ancestral land. Under the envious gazes of many senior deacons and senior deacons, Tsing Hui bowed again. Thank you, third elder. You deserve it. As Angus spoke, he got someone to take Ching Su away first. Perfect body? And Nan and Angela came up to him and asked. It is indeed the perfect body, but I don't know if he can maintain it when he reaches the platinum rank. If he can, there is a small chance that our family will give birth to a legendary being in the future. Ancano nodded and said to Anan, investigate his background. If there are no problems, we'll bring him back to the ancestral land and train him. Okay, leave it to me. Anan nodded. Their conversation could be described as secretive, but Ching Su, who had already descended to the second floor, heard it extremely clearly. Ching Su did not worry about that at all. The mysteries of the laws of fortune ranked at the very top among the 3,000 ways. Let alone Elder Angus, even the legendary life forms equivalent to great ability users hidden in the ancestral grounds would not be able to find anything wrong with his reincarnation. His origins were definitely clean. Half a month passed by quickly. Under the expectant and envious gazes of Ancano and the others, Ching Su, Angus, Angela, and the other elders boarded a warship-like building and headed towards the Inclan's ancestral grounds. Even though extraordinary powers were restricted, the In family's territory was still hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide. The ancestral land was in a mountain range with a diameter of 3,000 kilometers, called the Mountain of Peace. There were many restrictions and traps around the mountain range, and many elite members of the In family were guarding it. Anyone who barged in would not be able to escape the fate of death. Even Moonlight rankers were no exception. However, Tsing Hui knew that with the In family's hidden strength, not to mention Moonlight rankers, even legendary beings would die if they barged into the ancestral land. The ship traveled forward, passing through countless checkpoints, and finally entered the Mountain of Peace where the ancestral land was located. As soon as they entered the mountain range, Tsing Hui clearly felt that the space around them had become abnormal, vaguely resembling a subsidiary world. Originally, this subsidiary world should have been hidden very well and should not have been detected by Tsing Hui. However, it seemed that the universe's consciousness had sealed off the entire chaotic universe, causing this abnormality to appear in this subsidiary world, allowing Tsing Hui to detect it immediately. This In family is not ordinary. Tsing Hui thought to himself. The ship they were on had already stopped at a platform. On the platform, there were already 2 elders waiting there. These 2 elders looked like they were only at the astral rank, which was the standard of creating a world with a thought. However, Tsing Hui could see through the enormous energy hidden deep within them at first glance. It was a terrifying energy that was not inferior to legendary beings. Chapter 942. For the next 10 years, you will be receiving guidance from the 2 elders of the ancestral land. Elder Angus, who led the group, led the 6 selected people to the 2 elders of the ancestral land. At the same time, he said respectfully, Elders, I'll have to trouble you with these 6 little fellows. Their identities have been fully verified, and they are absolutely trustworthy. After saying that, he secretly glanced in the direction of Tsing Hui. In addition, among these 6 little fellows, one has cultivated a perfect body. He cultivated a perfect body through his own efforts? One of the 2 elders glanced at Tsing Hui and nodded secretly. Okay, I understand. You may leave. Yes, then I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Angus left and handed the 6 people to the 2 elders of the ancestral land. Of the 6 people, only 4 were actually selected by the martial arts arena. The other 2 were obviously seeds with potential that were secretly cultivated. One of the 2 elders of the ancestral land stepped forward and looked at the 4 people indifferently. You can call me Chen Zhao. I'm mainly responsible for guiding your cultivation. The other one is Elder Win. He's responsible for teaching you how to survive better. Survive? The 6 people looked at each other. That's right, survival. No matter how talented you are, if you can't survive and die prematurely, only death awaits you. Dead geniuses aren't geniuses, they're just idiots. Not to mention, in my eyes, you guys aren't geniuses at all. Every 10 years, I've seen so many so-called geniuses like you guys, but how many of them can really stand out? Chen Zhao said and added, "Follow me." After saying that, he led the group of 6 straight to a valley in the mountain range. The entire valley was filled with all sorts of restrictions and formations. However, in this world, they took the form of mysterious runes. These runes imprisoned the valley and even the trees and rocks in the valley, making the trees and rocks extremely sturdy and miraculous. However, Tsing Hui couldn't see the specific use of these runes. He could only rely on his powerful senses to determine the changes in their quality. In the valley, there were dozens of small courtyards that were very far apart. They were scattered all over the valley with a diameter of nearly 100 kilometers. Some old people lived in these courtyards, but there were also many young people. Judging from the exclamations of Anya, who was also selected from time to time, it was not difficult to guess that these young people were the outstanding geniuses who had been selected to enter the ancestral land in the previous big competition held every 10 years. As soon as Elder Qin Zhao arrived, he immediately began to gather the other young people in the courtyard. Not long after, there were more than 40 young people gathered in front of Tsing Hui. Among these 40 young people, the weakest was at least gold rank, and more than half of them were at least platinum rank. This fully demonstrated the depth of the Yin family's heritage. Today is the day when the newcomers arrive. At the same time, it is also the day when the unqualified will be eliminated. If you want to stay in the ancestral land, you can only be the true pillar of the Yin clan in the future, the leader who can support the growth of the Yin clan. Many of you clearly do not have this qualification. As Elder Qin Zhao spoke, he began to call out the names. Not long after, 6 people were selected. The 6 people who were chosen had gloomy expressions on their faces. Shame and unwillingness could be seen on their faces. Your performance in the past 10 years has disappointed me. Now you can pack your things and go back. The Yin family's precious resources won't be wasted on trash. Elder Qin Zhao's words were merciless. However, in the eyes of Anya and the others, this scene was rather unbelievable. Because among the 6 people who were eliminated, 4 of them were at the gold rank, and 2 of them were even at the platinum rank. If they were placed in the outside world, they would be able to dominate a region. But now, from the looks of it, they were kicked out like trash by Elder Qin Zhao. This naturally formed a strong impact on them. If a platinum rank who was less than 300 years old was like this, then what about them, the gold rank juniors? The ancestral land has a unique cultivation environment formed by the accumulation of all the Yin family's resources. In 10 years, as long as you put in enough effort and diligence, even if your talent is trash, you can still break through a small realm. If you can't break through, then you'll be kicked out like them in 10 years. Elder Qin Zhao announced the mechanism without hesitation. The rules of the ancestral land are like this. You must break through a small realm every 10 years when you're gold rank, and the time limit is extended to 30 years when you're platinum rank. Only then can you continue to stay in the ancestral land. If your performance doesn't satisfy us, then you don't have the qualifications to become a guardian of the ancestral land and enjoy the Yin family's best resources, just like them. The 6 cultivators who were kicked out immediately looked ashamed. The remaining 30 or so young people all looked nervous. Survival of the fittest. The weak don't have the qualifications to enjoy rich resources. This is the first lesson I'm teaching you. Take them away. Elder Qin Zhao waved his hand as he spoke, and the elders came forward to take the 6 people who were eliminated away. You've all cultivated the gold body, but the gold body is only the beginning of the gold rank. Chen Zhao's voice echoed in the field, but Tsing Hui didn't pay much attention to it. Most of his attention was focused on sizing up the ancestral land. Unfortunately, even if he was one of the most powerful people in the world, And his battle strength wasn't any weaker than the demon god's incarnation. His experience and knowledge were too little. Even if he knew that the ancestral land hid a great secret, he couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Looks like, if I want to get in touch with the core secrets of the ancestral land, I'll have to first obtain a high enough position. Fortunately, I've always been a genius in the past 100 years. Since I've been nurtured by the ancestral land's resources, I won't attract too much attention no matter how much of a genius I am. Xing Hui calmed down as he thought about it. After Qin Zhao gave a lecture, he quickly brought the 6 people, including the 20 or so seniors who were still in the gold rank, into the cultivation course. The first place they were brought to was a huge smithy. This smithy had a large furnace with a diameter of 10 meters. Through smelting gold, precious herbs, and ferocious beast corpses, a large amount of golden liquid was extracted. The first step was to smear the golden liquid all over their bodies. During the smearing process, the golden liquid seeped into their bodies. While it brought them excruciating pain, it also strengthened their bodies and tempered their cells. With his powerful senses, Xing Hui could clearly see how precious this resource was to a gold rank cultivator. After understanding the amplification effect of the golden liquid on a gold rank powerhouse, Xing Hui made sure that his body showed enough improvement every time he completed his cultivation. Under such circumstances, he rose from the beginner gold rank to the intermediate gold rank in just 2 years of cultivation, which was the minimum requirement for the 10 years of cultivation. This result surprised Elder Qin Zhao a little, and the guidance he gave him after that was obviously more biased. The results that Xing Hui deliberately showed did not disappoint Elder Qin Zhao. In less than 3 years after breaking through to the intermediate gold rank, he advanced again and stepped into the advanced gold rank. In just 5 years, he had broken through 2 small ranks. Not only did it make other cultivators of the same rank envious, but it also alarmed more elders. In the next 5 years, Xing Hui continued to work hard. Under the surprised gazes of several elders, he broke through again and rushed to the peak gold rank, completing the 3-level leap in just 10 years. It seemed that the platinum rank was just around the corner. Xing Hui, who had shown such talent, finally gained the attention of the elders of the ancestral land. Following that, Elder Wian personally gave him one-on-one special training that lasted for 10 years. In these 10 years, Xing Hui could clearly feel that Elder Wian was not only guiding him in his cultivation, but also finding ways to establish his worldview. From their worldview, it was not difficult to see that they were hostile to the Supreme Eternal Shrine. Behind the Eternal Shrine was the Burning Blood Overlord. Being hostile to the Eternal Shrine was almost equivalent to being hostile to the Burning Blood Overlord. In this regard, while Xing Hui was secretly shocked, he naturally did his best to show his loyalty to the Andersons. As long as the Andersons' interests were violated, even if they were members of the Eternal Shrine's priest council, he would not hesitate to kill them. After 10 years of observation, she confirmed that Xing Hui's worldview was correct. In addition, he had broken through to the platinum rank 3 years ago. To prevent further observation from wasting his talent, Elder Wian finally led Xing Hui into the valley. After passing through a layer of disguised spatial barriers that resembled an auxiliary world, they arrived at a huge underground space. This underground space was hundreds of kilometers wide, and there were many people living in it. However, most of them were elderly, and they behaved mysteriously. Under Elder Wuyen's lead, Xing Hui quickly arrived at a place that resembled an academy. As Xing Hui carefully sensed, the number of cultivators in the academy with terrifying energy hidden in their bodies broke through the double digits. In addition, there were about a dozen cultivators who looked rather young, but their cultivations were at the platinum, astral, and moonlight ranks. I've finally come into contact with the core. Xing Hui secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He did not expect that he would still have to go through a 20-year-long assessment despite having such a clean background. Any? You're the little fellow who Wu Yan and Qin Zhao strongly recommended over the years, the one who they said had the best talent? Come, don't be afraid. Follow me. The Academy's dean, Eclipse, was an elder who similarly contained terrifying energy. He smiled as he led Xing Hui into the academy. Before you enter the academy, you must first pay your respects to our clan's progenitor. This progenitor isn't the progenitor who founded the clan in the mortal plane. Instead, he's an even more ancient and mighty existence. As Eclipse spoke, he led Tsing Hui deep into the academy, in front of a large statue that was about 30 meters tall. The instant he saw the statue and sensed the remnant aura on it, Tsing Hui held his breath. Heretic God. The statue was actually an heretic god. Or rather, it was a chaos life form. Chapter 943. A chaos life form? To worship another chaos life form in a chaos life form's chaos universe? Or could it be that the family lineage is actually a descendant of a chaos life form? When Tsing Hui came to the family, he had always felt that the family was not simple. But he never expected that the family, which he only believed to have some huge secrets, was actually that complicated. A chaos life form. Could it be? Was this a chaos life form that had infiltrated another chaos life form's body in a bid to trigger a war between chaos life forms? But a war between chaos life forms shouldn't be so trivial, right? With the size of chaos life forms, once they attacked, it should be an apocalyptic battle. I believe you can tell from the moment you came here that our family isn't as simple as you make it out to be. Eclipse's turbid gaze landed on Tsing Hui as it contained a terrifying glint. Do you remember the oath you swore when Smokeless brought you here? I remember. I will forever be the sharp sword of the family clan, slashing apart all enemies that obstruct our family clan's rise to prominence. Even the Eternal Temple's priest corps is no exception. Tsing Hui wore a solemn expression as his expression was filled with resolve. He knew that when he said those words, the elder named Eclipse had already used a chaos life form figurine that resembled a creation divine artifact to probe his heart. He was trying to determine the truth of his words. Unfortunately, on the one hand, Tsing Hui was speaking the truth. He wasn't afraid of the Eternal Temple's priest corps. On the other hand, as a chaos life form, how could a statue that only contained a portion of the chaos life forms might probe the thoughts of another chaos life form? Seeing that the statue didn't show any abnormalities, Eclipse's eyes were filled with a satisfied smile. Then he slowly said, I believe you are now very curious as to who this mighty patriarch in front of you is, right? Tsing Hui nodded heavily. At the same time, he looked at the statue in front of him and imagined the growth process of a chaos life form. He said, Elder, I sense an extremely familiar aura from this statue. In fact, this familiar aura makes a force in my body stir. Is this our true patriarch? You can actually sense the primogenitor's aura? When Eclipse heard Tsing Hui's words, he immediately widened his eyes. Could it be that the bloodline in your body is showing signs of atavism? That was definitely the case. Otherwise, I can't explain how you, who came from a branch family, could break through to such a level in such a short time. With that said, Eclipse sliced open his right hand and dripped a drop of blood essence to offer it to the statue in front of him. He said with excitement, Great Ancestor, if this person in front of me is really of your bloodline, please bless him. When Tsing Hui heard this, his expression changed slightly. He seemed to have gone a little overboard. Just as he was trying to come up with a solution, the statue did not respond. The excitement in Eclipse's eyes gradually dimmed. The great primogenitor lost his response to us 3 million years ago. According to the legends passed down from the other branches, the great primogenitor was harmed by this evil god. Even his world was devoured. This chaos being was harmed by the burning blood lord? Even the universe was devoured? If that's the case, this chaos being is probably dead. Tsing Hui's heart stirred. If the chaos being in front of him was really dead, he had a much greater chance of success. With this thought in mind, the virtual immortal Dao world's powers rapidly projected onto the statue. Instantly, the statue emitted a profound, obscure, vast, majestic, and boundless aura. It left Dean Eclipse widening his eyes. Although it's very weak, and there are some slight differences, but this is definitely an aura that only the primogenitor can possess. The primogenitor has manifested his spirit? The statue's mysticism lasted for an instant. At the next moment, the mysticism transformed into a stream of light that shot into Tsing Hui's body. Upon obtaining the stream of light, Tsing Hui thought of the various characteristics of the Chaos Being's cultivation system. He immediately faked a tragic cry as though he was in extreme pain. And as he screamed, his platinum stage aura began to rise crazily. Platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage. His life form's evolution improved by leaps and bounds. He went from the platinum stage to the platinum stage to the platinum stage. This was also the highest level Tsing Hui could reach without anyone noticing anything amiss with his present strength. If he wanted to reach the glorious sun or even the legendary stage, he was lacking in strength. On the other hand, it was inevitable that Dean Eclipse would notice something amiss. Heavens, the primogenitor's blessing. Bloodline awakening. This is the sign of the primogenitor's blessing of bloodline awakening. When Elder Eclipse saw the changes in Tsing Hui's aura, he exclaimed in pleasant surprise. At the same time, the mystical aura that appeared on the statue also attracted the powerful senses of the dozen or so legendary powerhouses in this obscure place. Along with the dispersal of a huge aura, the figures of the dozen or so legendary powerhouses appeared in the hall where the statue was located at the same time. Eclipse, what's going on? This is the primogenitor's. Just now, we sensed a vast and majestic aura that caused one's life essence to tremble. However, that aura was too obscure, and it vanished without a trace in a flash. We didn't have the time to investigate it carefully at all. What exactly happened? Legendary experts with terrifying auras appeared one after another. Every one of them was an existence in no way weaker than a mighty divine ability user. Although the number of these people was nothing compared to the scene Tsing Hui had in the Eternal Temple, he had yet to recover to his peak. If he were to make enemies with more than 10 legendary experts, he would still be in danger. Thankfully, Eclipse seemed to sense the change in Tsing Hui's breathing. He thought that he was frightened by the presence of so many legendary experts and immediately waved his hand. You old fogies, don't scare our little An-E. An-E? This little guy. His bloodline seems very young. He's already at the moonshine stage? What's going on, Eclipse? As the legendary experts conversed, they quickly converged their auras. As for Tsing Hui, he also recovered some of his complexion. By the side, Eclipse immediately consoled him. An-E, don't be nervous. These are our family's elders who guard the ancestral grounds. They usually cultivate in seclusion deep in the ancestral grounds. Unless we're facing a fatal danger, they won't easily walk out of the ancestral grounds. You don't have to worry either. You just received the primogenitor's blessing and awakened the primogenitor's bloodline. In the future, the family will definitely nurture you with all its might. The primogenitor's blessing? Bloodline awakening? Eclipse, are you saying that this little guy? An old man among the dozen or so people widened his eyes and looked at Ching Su in some disbelief. The others basically had the same reaction as him. Eclipse nodded. The anomaly that happened just now was An-E receiving the primogenitor's blessing. As a result, he awakened his bloodline. Due to his bloodline awakening, An-E went from the low platinum stage to the low moonshine stage. He crossed 8 minor realms and 2 major realms. Is it really a bloodline awakening? The elder immediately appeared beside Tsing Hui and pulled him up. At the same time, a surge of energy surged into Tsing Hui's body. Tsing Hui's heart stirred as he released a wisp of his energy fluctuations as a chaos life form. To ensure his safety, he only allowed the elder to sense the energy fluctuations for a moment before quickly concealing them. But even so, the elder could not help but reveal a look of delight when he sensed the chaos life form aura in Tsing Hui's body. It's indeed a bloodline awakening. Although it's extremely weak, he's the only descendant who has truly awakened his bloodline in the past 3 million years. Isn't it said that the great primogenitor has already perished? Even the chaos verse we live in has been devoured and refined by this detestable chaos life form. It forced our lineage to scatter across the mortal plane and hide ourselves deep in hopes of the day when we can recreate the primogenitor's glory. How can he still bless his descendants and awaken their bloodline? One of the elders was doubtful. However, his doubts were quickly refuted by another elder. The great primogenitor's power is far beyond our imagination. Although we haven't received a reply from the primogenitor in the past 3 million years, that doesn't mean he's truly dead. After all, 3 million years is nothing to an existence like the great primogenite. It might be equivalent to a period of seclusion for him to recuperate. As for your claim that the primogenitor's universe has been devoured by the chaos life form, that might not be the case. Our subsidiary worlds still exist to this day, so doesn't that prove that the chaos life form has only absorbed the primogenitor's world into his body and not fully assimilated it? Once the primogenitor awakens, he'll naturally be able to regain control of that world and charge out of the chaos life form's chaosverse. That's right. The chaos life form has indeed devoured the primogenitor's world, but he had already left his own chaosverse 1 million years ago. It's said that he had invaded other chaosverses, and a mere 2 million years isn't enough for the primogenitor's world to be completely melted. Perhaps the primogenitor took advantage of that time to be reborn from the ashes and return from death. That's most likely the case. The youth before us must be the first seed chosen by the primogenitor upon his return. At the same time, the primogenitor is giving us a signal before he awakens, and might even contact us through him one day in the future. Exactly. The legends who had been waiting for the primogenitor's reply for a long time were all agitated, placing all their gazes and hopes on Tsing-Hui. After all, there was no mistaking the vast presence they had sensed and the various reactions of the primogenitor statue. A smile appeared on Ching-Su's face as he watched the legendary elders talk to themselves excitedly. It was not a waste to infiltrate the family for so long. Now, it was finally time for him to reap the rewards, and from the current situation, the descendants of a fallen chaos life form, the final reward might be more bountiful than he imagined. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.